We're still waiting, and
Hey, it
hey,
says you're live. Look at
yeah,
that.
we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Shit Show. My name is Ron Klett, and sitting across from me, as usual, is a man who has a lot of conspiracy theories surrounding him. Is the one and only
Derek the Barbaric Drive.
That's right, Derek. How are you doing today?
I'm a little nervous today.
Are you really? Yeah, I noticed what you brought to the
Yeah.
studio today. To drink, and usually we go with like a theme to drink for our podcast, especially for QAnon. We went with themed drinks for the last two parts,
Yep.
but not really going with a themed drink this time.
No,
Right?
this time we're just going with something local to Michigan here. Good old Leaky Still moonshine.
Leaky Still.
Made in Livonia,
It
Michigan.
makes it sound like we're old men wearing Depends. Yeah, we're Leaky Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? By the end of this episode, we might turn into a Leaky Still.
We might.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's 150 proof, Ron. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know if I'm ready for this or not.
I don't know if I am either. I think this is probably going to be the strongest alcohol that I have ever drank before.
Hey, look at that. We stopped recording already.
We did. Okay.
Okay. Well, we are live on YouTube right now, but our recording on our other part has stopped. So give us a second while we figure out what the heck is going on.
We're going to have to end. We apologize for this.
Don't end that. Don't end that. Don't end that. Just they can see us do our other stuff.
Okay.
Just stop our other one.
Right.
Our garage band failed. We had this issue last week, or not last week, but last episode. If you notice, if any of the audio was any different, we stopped recording the last hour of our podcast on GarageBand. See if you can start it up right at where it cut.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to start it up again, and we'll see what happens. But if we're running into this problem,
right? Hopefully it's not too crazy.
Yeah, hopefully it's not.
You guys get to see us deal with our stuff live. Look at that. Don't you feel special?
Yeah.
All of our ups and downs and bumps and
right.
All the stupid crap that goes on.
All right, we're gonna try it again here.
All right,
give it a try. And
let's see if it stays going.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Yeah, we don't know why our recording for a podcast is stopping right now. I don't know if it has something to do with it timing out or what's going on, but we'll see what happens. We'll keep running here. And anyway, so getting back to what we were talking about with the alcohol. So
yeah, 150 proof. I'm the highest proof I've ever drank. Other than in what we talked about beforehand, mixed drinks and stuff like that, but I don't, that it's diluted, so it doesn't count because I have had Everclear in a mixed drink, but not straight. And we are planning to do at least one shot straight.
At least one shot, and
then we'll do something mixed.
Yeah, I just looking at the shot. I mean, just anticipating it. The shot glass looks a lot bigger to me.
Right.
It's like when you poured it, it's like, oh no, wow, looks like there's a lot in there.
It straight up smells like a cleaner of some sort. It's
So I think should we do this before we?
I think we're stalling at this point.
I know. Ron. I feel like we're stalling, and like I said, we are finishing up our QAnon episode. This is part 3, and so we'll be coming to a conclusion, discussing QAnon and everything like that. And just to start off the episode, before we get into this fantastic drink that we have going, we got a lot of information from Mike Rothschild's "The Storm is Upon Us: How QAnon Became a Movement, Cult, and a Conspiracy Theory of Everything." So, and a lot of other articles online as well. So there we go. So now we got all of that out of the way.
Right.
Now, what else can we talk about?
Well, your wife was kind enough to make us food.
She was worried about our health after we take the shot, and then we were going to also mix a drink with it too.
She doesn't want us to die for some reason. I don't know.
No,
I thought she was trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, I thought she would. I thought she would have said, "Hey, good luck."
Right? Have fun. Just
Right.
oh.
Right. Right. So anyway, okay. Well, I think we've put off the inevitable long enough.
Do you want to grab the orange juice for our mixed drink first?
You want to? Okay.
Yeah, let's do
okay.
that.
Hold on.
Let's
Let me
do
grab
this.
it. Hold on. Hold on.
I swear this is not a stalling tactic. We need it anyways. Oh,
Okay. I'll just set it down
all
here
right,
on the
all
floor,
right.
right next to our table here, and then we're all ready and good to go. Okay. So how have you been, Derek?
Busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Wasn't working for most of the summer, and then now I'm working, 10 to 14-hour days. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
but the bright side is I only work 4 days a week, so I have 3-day weekends,
Right.
and then like upcoming for President's Day, I believe it is. I think that's the next like bank holiday that's coming up.
Mhm.
I have a 4-day weekend.
Oh, that's right, because of the banking system,
Yeah,
and they
'cause
don't
I'll-
actually deposit, or you don't pick up deposits
Yeah.
on those days because they're not open.
Yeah, because I have Fridays off normally.
Yeah.
And then because of the holiday, I'll have Monday off. So I'll have
Yep.
a nice 4-day weekend. And then
Yeah.
after that, it'll be a 2-day weekend, but that's a normal weekend for most people.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So,
it'll be nice.
yeah, as you know, if you couldn't tell that Derek and I don't work together anymore.
Not anymore.
No, we used to. We used to work together back in the day. Now we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just yeah. So
Sad
Derek,
times.
Derek got another job, and so he's moving up in the world.
Or down. I mean, I did take a $4 an hour pay cut, but whatever. Oh,
Right.
I enjoy this job a lot more.
That's the whole point. If you enjoy what you're doing, that's what matters.
And it's about 20 minutes closer to my
Let's
house.
see.
where
Yeah, it all works
start,
out better
at
for you.
least. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah, I haven't been up to much either.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much at all.
Just stalling.
just
Just
stalling.
working on those stalling tactics.
What else can I talk about? Yeah, it's kind of rainy today. I
Yeah,
noticed
it's
that.
kinda
Yeah,
gloomy
like
out.
fall is starting to come in,
I was
and
hoping to take my bike again today, but couldn't do that because it's
Yeah.
supposed to get real rainy later.
yeah. And how about those Detroit Lions?
I don't know. I haven't watched much of them, but I do know U of M is still undefeated after yesterday. So that's a bonus.
Hey, that's a good thing. So yeah,
And
that's great.
My brother on my dad's side is a big Notre Dame fan, and they won their first game of the year yesterday.
Great,
So
great.
I can't pick on him for being 3-0 or 4-0 or whatever
Yeah.
it would have been if they lost.
Well, hopefully Michigan has a better year this year,
Right.
and Detroit as well. Okay, now we've got sports out of the way. What else can we talk about?
I was gonna say after 8 minutes of stalling, I think it's time, Ron. I
Is
think
it?
we have to bite the bullet.
Ooh, okay. Here we go.
You
everybody.
guys might see death live on air.
Yeah, well, that is going to boost our ratings.
Right.
I hope. All right. A toast to you. A
Mm.
toast to everybody out there. You might see us die live.
Oh,
Live
God,
stream
here
on
we
YouTube.
go. Good
All
thing we
right.
still have food. 'Cause,
Yeah.
Oh God.
Right. Here we go. All right.
On 3 or after 3? Is it 1, 2, 3 drink, or 1, 2, and then 3 is drink?
1, 2, 3. Then drink. 1, 2, 3. Then drink.
All right.
Okay.
And the whole thing, straight shot.
Okay.
All of it down.
All right.
All right.
1, 2, 3. I had to watch. Okay, I had to watch the reaction. I should have not have waited for that reaction because now I'm more afraid to drink it. Here it goes.
It doesn't taste terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It just all the air just leaves your body though. Like when you breathe, like it's like,
oh God. It's
Yeah.
like I'm looking for something that I can do here.
We will be eating during the
Oh,
first part of this
I'm
episode,
sorry.
so you may hear some mouth noises.
Miss May. Yeah, we're sorry. It might sound, kind of disgusting on your end, but
You kidding me? People pay to hear this shit.
yeah, we just have to get this down.
Oh.
Wow, that was something. That was something else. So,
Like taste wise, it wasn't any worse than like a bad vodka.
not really. No,
Like it, but that like
you did feel the air
Ah,
leave your body.
yeah.
It just felt like it sucked all of the air out.
Yeah, it was. Oh my gosh.
Wow, that's amazing. Leaky still.
Yeah,
Made here in
so,
Livonia.
in all honesty,
Livonia, Michigan.
it not as bad as I thought it was going to be in terms
No,
of
not
flavor wise.
honestly, yeah, I thought maybe it may have tasted like fingernail polish remover. What I would assume what fingernail polish remover would taste like, because that stuff smells just horrible. But
Yeah,
actually,
you open it, it smells straight up like acetone.
it smells straight up like ass. Oh, can I say ass on YouTube at this point?
We've said a lot worse
Oh,
on
okay.
YouTube than ass. Have you listened to our last 2 episodes, Ron? We haven't gotten a "you've been kicked off YouTube"
Not
letter
yet.
so.
Not yet. I'm waiting for it to flash up on screen. You now have been kicked off YouTube. Yeah.
All of a sudden, our stream just shuts down.
Right. Turn in your microphones. You guys are done. You're shut down. So anyway, all right. So then we got a mixed drink coming up too, and we're gonna mix it with orange juice, right? We got like a shot of leaky still,
and then
just mix it. Yeah. Pour some orange juice in with some
like
ice.
A screwdriver, like you would. And
you want to mix that up right now? And
yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay, hold on. Let me grab the ice. I should have all this ready.
No, I was looking it up the other day. Like, what do you mix with moonshine? And they obviously had some. How much you want there, Ron?
Oh, I don't know. That's good.
I was looking it up, and they were all like, they had different like cocktails you could do and stuff. And I was like, well, considering we have, a few hours until we record, I didn't want to come up with anything too fancy. But they kept saying, like, if you normally would mix it with whiskey, you can mix it with moonshine because it's essentially distilled, like it's a very similar drink. And then a lot of things, they were like, basically mix it with anything. It's like, if you have a citrus drink that you like to drink it with, if you have a tea that you want, you can mix it with iced tea or this or that. And I'm like, okay, fuck it.
Or mix it with other alcohol.
Yeah, right. So it's like, all right, screw it. Let's try this. Let's see if we die or not.
Right. Well, there we go. Okay.
We didn't die for the shot.
We didn't die. Yay! All right. We're very much alive.
We might be slaying our worst by the end of the
we could. Whoa. Oh, shit.
Still?
Yeah, it has a kick. Definitely does.
Can you at least taste the orange juice?
You can. Yeah, you can. But they're definitely on the front end. You really get the kick of the leaky still. Oh, yeah, you sure do. So, all right. Well, I think we've talked enough about alcohol. And you know why we're here. We're here to talk about the big Q.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Yeah. Bringing this roller coaster to an end here.
The grand finale.
The grand finale of the big Q, because,
and it's October next month, so we get to get into our
Halloween specials.
Yeah, our darker side of
life. We have some really good stuff coming up. Yeah, and definitely we'll probably share some of that at the end of our episode today.
Yeah.
And so anyway, without further ado, let's jump right into this. You have anything to say before we kind of jump into all of the Q stuff?
Not really.
No?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I have a lot to say later, though.
Fantastic. Good. And I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. And I'm sure it's all good stuff. So, well, where we left off on part 2, we left off with Matthew Wright taking over the Hoover Dam. And, well, Matthew Wright's blockade of the Hoover Dam was the first public violent act that was associated with QAnon.
Yes.
Yes, it was. But, with Q getting more popular on Facebook and Twitter, they kind of took on less of a military intelligence persona and more of a kind of a GOP cheerleader.
Yeah.
Q started relentlessly attacking Trump, Trump's basically foe, John McCain. They started attacking him, the Department of Justice and the FBI figures. And in 2018 ended. Q was a little over a year old at this time. And despite none of the Q's predictions coming true, surprise, surprise, the movement had taken the Republican Party and the mass media by storm. Q believers thought that they were truly on the verge of something incredible that would change the world. And Q fed them everything they needed to keep believing that this was true, even when the world events proved otherwise. So nothing was happening on
Yeah.
Q's side except for you got a couple, I guess, lack of a better word, crazies out there that really believed hardcore Q stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that thought this was all happening and they wanted answers.
Yep.
Just like with Matthew Wright, you know. And then that's something with a lot of people within conspiracy theories. I mean, you have
Yeah.
the people. I don't think if you look at the gamut of people that believe in conspiracy theories, I think there's a lot of people that there's a group that will believe in a set of conspiracy theories, but won't believe in another set of conspiracy theories. So if
Yeah.
you took one person from one set and another person from another set, and that person would try to convince them of their conspiracy theory that they believe in, that other person might not believe them. They don't say, no, I don't buy into that, but I'll buy into, say, aliens,
Oh yeah.
or I'll buy into the JFK assassination
Yep.
conspiracy theories, of course, but I won't buy into
Flat Earth.
Adrenochrome
Right.
conspiracy
Yeah.
theories, stuff like that. So I think there's a wide gamut. I don't think you can paint conspiracy theorists with one brush
Yeah.
stroke.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, because I don't want to say you straight up have your crazies out there, because conspiracies, especially nowadays, wait, a couple months and they turn out to be true.
Right.
Which is something we're actually going to kind of cover when we get to like the adrenochrome and stuff like that. Like there are some truths behind a lot of these theories that are coming up.
Right.
But there's also, they're shut off again. That is odd.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is,
So
hopefully this doesn't keep going.
right. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, we don't know why this is shutting off.
We sincerely apologize.
We
We never
apologize for
claimed to
this.
be a professional podcast.
Yeah.
Someday maybe we'll hire a producer that can keep an eye and answer all our questions and help us through all the technical difficulties, so you guys don't have to deal with it live on air.
Yeah. So what were you talking about before? Let's bring this right back.
What was I saying?
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
Short-term memory loss. Not everyone is super crazy. We have a lot of conspiracy theories that are actually coming true nowadays. I know that was something I was touching on a little bit there. Oh gosh, what exactly was I saying? Do you remember?
Well, we were talking about that. We can't paint, conspiracy theorists with one brush stroke.
Yeah. And it's gotten to the point where people just think conspiracy theorists are all psychotic and crazy, when a lot of times lately they haven't been, which is actually in the research of QAnon. I've been wanting to add to our nice little list that we have over on our whiteboard of a few other conspiracy theories, because they turned out to be true. And there have been some others that super controversial, but I've heard some of the other side of the conspiracy theory, and it's made me go, wait a second. Like, I'd like to look into this and research this more. Because one of the big QAnon conspiracy theories that actually ties in with what was this, Matthew Wright, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was the whole Las Vegas shooting. And I have heard some of their arguments on it, and I haven't had a chance to actually look into these arguments. But they make you stop and go, wait a second. Something's not adding up right here.
Yeah.
The amount of rounds that were supposedly fired, how, and the amount of time that it had, and, all this other stuff that kind of doesn't necessarily add up. Some of the interviews with, the family members afterwards going, why? There's no reason this guy would have done it. Again, this is all stuff I've heard kind of secondhand, so I haven't had time to I haven't researched it personally, but it makes me go, huh.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand where some of these QAnon supporters are stopping and scratching their head,
Mm-hmm.
But they're not all crazies.
Right.
A
Right.
lot of this stuff does turn out to be true. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of this stuff does turn out to at least have a grain of truth in it, like we've talked about in a couple of our last episodes, with child sex trafficking. There are definite grains of truth throughout
Sure.
all of this.
I mean, where the Clintons were being blamed for sex trafficking young kids out of Comet Pizza for the Pizzagate, and even though with some of the descriptions of what the conspiracy theory was about, that the Clintons were murdering kids, especially Hillary, and wearing their faces after they skinned them, and kind of going off into this horror movie realm, but there were grains of truth with child sex trafficking when it came to Clinton's association with Jeffrey Epstein. So again, there was granules of truth in that. Yeah.
So it's not all one broad brushstroke, like we said, because there are some people that's where they stop. They go, hey, the Clintons are tied to Epstein. There's something going on. We need to look into this.
Right.
And then there's other people going, oh, they're performing satanic rituals and Hillary is wearing the face of children.
Yeah.
Not saying she's not.
Right. Have you ever looked at her face lately? It probably do her a lot of good.
Well, see, there is an excuse for that.
Mm-hmm.
With the whole COVID-19 stuff that's been going on, the theory is that their access to kids has dropped. So a lot of famous people have not been able to get their quote unquote doses of adrenochrome as readily as they used to, which is why a lot of big name people seem to be aging a lot faster over the last couple of years.
Oh, is that it? Okay. Yep. All right. Well,
that was something I came across actually this morning.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess maybe that's why. What was I thinking of? Well, maybe that's why George Hamilton had stayed looking young for such a long time, young and tan. I don't know if he's alive anymore, but maybe he ran out of
one that actually isn't alive anymore that was suspected as the Queen.
There you go. That's why she died.
Her health deteriorated a lot within the last couple of years. Like she went from being everywhere and shooting guns and doing all this other stuff that I've seen pictures of her doing.
Having hootenannies.
I mean, I saw some picture of her shooting some military rifle or something.
Really?
Like
the Queen?
Yeah.
Oh, she's badass then.
And going from doing that to health problems, and then she passed away. And I mean, a lot of people have been real negative about it and stuff like that. I try to be a little more respectful in the fact that she's been queen for freaking eon.
Yeah, it seems like forever. Yeah,
she's been old since I was a child.
Yeah, it's those little kids definitely harvesting all that adrenochrome. It has to be. And then now, like you said, after COVID-19, there's not as many children. Now look what happened. Yeah. There might be some truth to this. Well, let's move on. Let's see if there might be some truth to this. In December, just before Christmas, Q summed up what they wanted their followers to believe in their hearts, that the Democratic Party will cease to exist once it had been exposed, and fake news can no longer control the public awareness of the truth. So, yeah. Dark to light. Q. So that was a post.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Dark to light. So he was going to bring about the light and the light of truth and everything. So, but to understand Q's movements and its early growth, there is another critical element of QAnon, and it's very far from an original element.
Yeah.
It's been around with us for decades and decades. And I missed you guys. Damn it. Very little of Q's mythology originates with Q. It's kind of a rich tapestry of conspiracy theories, ancient hatreds, currency scams, moral panics, and social media rumors were stitched together to make QAnon. But few of these are entirely new nor is their original beginning difficult to trace. After all, what's the secret and all-powerful deep state if not a different term for New World or the New World Order?
Yep.
Right? Which in turn was a new formulation for the fear of the Catholic Church or the Freemasons that drove conspiracy theories in the 18th and 19th centuries. The elemental parts of Q didn't start with meme culture or Chan boards or Trump or social media. They didn't start with the internet, the CIA, the Russians, or the Illuminati. They're baked into the way humans demand explanations for things that seem to defy reason. And they start with one group that humanity has always managed to pin the blame on. And that would be the Jews.
Well, of course.
Of course. You got to
Fucking
blame the
Jews.
Jews for everything.
Fucking Jews.
Yeah. Yeah, the Jews. And it seems like, the Chan boards were all full of anti-Semitic rhetoric as well, and the fact is that QAnon is a deeply anti-Semitic movement. Q holds up wealthy Jews as the protected class, scheming among themselves in evil cliques to hoard the riches of the world and destroy those who oppose them. Oh, those Jews are so powerful.
Well, and
it's
okay,
like
so one of my thoughts,
Jews can never get a break.
They really can't.
They can't.
But one of my thoughts when I was looking into this stuff is because obviously we will get into they do have like some hardcore anti-Semitic beliefs, but when it comes to some of the more nonchalant QAnon supporters, the ones that aren't totally psychotic, there's still an aspect of truth. You get into somebody like George Soros, who is Jewish, and yes, he is trying to start essentially a new world order. If you've ever looked into some of the stuff he does, he's got his hands in everything and he's not afraid to say it.
Right.
Like he is out there saying like, this is our goal. This is what we want to do. And then what was the other?
You have to look at his net worth.
Oh yeah.
His net worth in 2021 was $8.6 billion.
Yeah. Far from the richest guy in the world, but he's got enough money. Once you hit billionaire status, you have enough money to do kind of whatever the hell
$1 million at one time seemed to be a lot of money. Not nowadays, when a house, if you want to buy a halfway decent house, is around $400,000 to $500,000.
Right.
Nowadays. So $1 million isn't that much anymore.
No, but billionaire money
is still a lot.
I've always liked the term "fuck you" money. It's literally means you can do whatever you want. You go, fuck you. I'm just gonna go do it.
Right.
Oops, I accidentally killed somebody in my mansion. Whatever. I'll pay off the family to keep their mouth shut. I've got the money to do it. Oh no, they want $500 million. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like I carry that in my pocket for fun. Like it's fuck you money. It's I do what I want. I get away with it. And when you're somebody like George Soros, I always want to say Rockefeller, but it's not Rockefeller.
It's the Rothschilds.
Yeah, same thing. They've got their hands in everything.
Yeah.
So I can see where conspiracy theorists come up with the in general idea of
course,
the two top families that have their hands in everything are Jewish.
Right.
I understand. I get it. But they tend to take it too far.
Well, it doesn't.
Or there's a group that takes it too far.
Well, QAnon had, accused George Soros, especially of funding domestic terrorism, arranging the invasion of free nations, money laundering, election rigging, and child sex trafficking.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming that's probably what you're referring to, like a lot of those allegations.
Yeah.
I'm sure he hasn't done any of that. I'm assuming. I'm assuming, unless some of the money that he has donated to whoever he's been donating to are being funneled, unbeknownst to him, to maybe terrorist activities.
If you want,
who knows? You don't know where the money could be shuffled around.
Terrorist activities. He has been funding, in recent years, he has been funding DAs that have been letting criminals go.
Okay.
That have, DAs that have refused to press charges against violent criminals here in the US. So if you want to talk about terrorist activities here on home soil, when you're refusing to do your job.
You want to go back to the shooting in Las Vegas?
Oh yeah.
It said that there was a conspiracy theory that it was the Islamic State that was funding that active shooter.
Yeah. Yep.
Now that hasn't been proven, but there were theories, and Q was right behind pushing that theory.
Yep.
That it was the Islamic State that funded that act or supported that act.
Yeah. And he's done other things that have just made you kind of stop and scratch your head and go, wait a second. And then again, with the whole Jeffrey Epstein stuff, who knows? I mean, maybe he was giving money to Epstein. I don't know. I would love it if people actually looked into this shit and gave us some answers.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like we were talking about, Soros was even, by a lot of Q followers, he was also claimed to deploy false flags, attacks against his own side, and was responsible for the takeover of a lot of the areas, particularly during some of the protests during COVID-19 by Antifa. Yeah, when Antifa and George Soros's name was basically thrown into supporting Antifa, and. Don't know if it's true. It never really came out. I don't think there's really been any deep investigation into that other than just some pie in the sky conspiracy theories again.
But again, when you have fuck you money, even if there's evidence out there of it happening,
is it going to matter?
It's either here's, $100,000, shut the fuck up, or it's, hey, here's $100,000. See that guy over there? Yep. I don't want him to talk anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because nobody's gonna stop you at that point. You can cover up almost anything.
Right. I mean, and just like you were talking about the Rothschilds, I mean, they were posited as financiers so flush with hundreds of trillions of dollars in holdings that they funded both sides in every war for the last from the last 3 centuries, and owned almost every central bank in the world. Soros and the Rothschilds were both money men behind a cabal so dark and evil it controlled almost every aspect of the media, banking, and politics. So that's where a lot of conspiracy theorists think the Rothschilds and Soros are controlling everything. And I don't know. I mean, how much influence do you have if you're a Rothschild? If you have that much money, you have over American politics to sway, particularly during wartime scenarios and situations, to throw money a certain way or throw money in a certain direction that will help a particular side. We do it now. We're doing it in Ukraine right now. We're throwing money to Ukraine. That's the only reason
the U.S. does. That's micro wars around the world. We just throw money at it.
We throw money at it, supply weapons, and that's the only reason why Ukraine is still holding
military
out.
Industrial complex, damn it.
That's the only reason why Ukraine is holding out against Russia is because of our weapons that we're supplying to them and the money that is being filtered into the country.
Because the funny thing is again, there's so much propaganda on either side. We don't know what's actually happening anyway. So I mean, Russians are saying they're winning. Ukraine's saying they're winning. We're sitting here going, oh yeah, Ukraine, and we don't really fucking know because it's all.
Who knows who's spinning what? I mean, the media is so hard to trust. You don't know what's spinning and who's spinning. And
if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. just actually declared they're not going to have open, we're not going to have our finances open so we can see what we're spending over in Ukraine. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong. If you're out there, fact check me. I heard it on something the other day. That it was one of the bills that just came out here in the US that we were actually going to stop. We used to have like public spending, and it was like you could see where our money was going. And when it came to Ukraine, they put forward that we were going to stop publishing that stuff.
Yeah.
Which makes it kind of like, wait a second, you guys want to hide the fact that we've been spending, like, I think, what are we up to, like $100 billion over in Ukraine?
Yeah, and some pocket change.
Like, it's like, holy shit, people.
It's crazy. I know. Yeah. Well, before we get off track,
Yes, okay.
I mean, we
All
could.
right.
Woo. Okay.
Left turn.
The Q movement has also worked hard to advance centuries-old traditions of blaming Jews for horrible crimes against innocent Christian boys and girls.
Yes.
This so-called blood libel, named after an accusation in 1144 that a group of Jews ritually murdered and consumed the blood of an English boy named William of Norwich. In the case of William of Norwich, a young boy found dead in a wooded area in England. His premature demise was transformed into a ritual supposedly performed by Jews explicitly to mock the passion of the Christ. In this lurid account of ritual desecration, the Jews scourged the boy, anointed him with thorns, lanced him in the side as Christ had been lanced, and staunched the flow of blood with boiling water.
Yes.
Ooh. All this was meant to consecrate the celebration of Passover. A monk, Thomas of Monmouth, who basically was the hagiographer, who basically did the account of what was going on, laid out his unsubstantiated account in a lot of detail, leading to the canonization of the dead boy, and accounts of miracles arose around his tomb. But even in that same account, there was a monk in 1173. He was not content to limit the image of the depravity to the Jews of a single city in eastern England. Instead, he drew on a secondhand source, a monk named Theobald, who supposedly converted from Judaism after hearing of the miracles of St. William of Norwich. Monmouth depicted a grimmer, larger scheme. This is what he said. He verily told us that the ancient writings of his fathers, it was written that the Jews, without the shedding of human blood, could neither obtain their freedom nor could they return to their fatherland, Monmouth wrote. And then he further wrote, hence it was laid down by them in ancient times that every year they must sacrifice a Christian to some part of the world to the Most High God in scorn and contempt of Christ, so they might avenge their sufferings on him. A secret cabal of rabbis gathered yearly in Narbonne, Monmouth said, presided over by the King of the Jews, Christ, and cast lots representing each country and city where Jews lived. And each year, the emerging lore had it, a child from one of these places was chosen to be sacrificed.
Now, in this setting, do you think King of the Jews they're actually referring to Christ, or did they?
I don't know if it was
'cause I know-
symbolic, if it was presided over symbolically by Christ.
Well, because in Judaism, they do not believe Christ as a God figure.
Right.
They believe he is a prophet. So I'm wondering if, in this sense, they're saying King of the Jews
In
as
a mocking way?
no, as a almost a pope figure.
Okay. So by
Possibly.
somebody who's
So,
a leader in that,
yeah, like their leader of
that they put
the
him up.
Jewish culture. Type
So they
thing,
put
yeah.
him up high as Jesus Christ himself,
Not
as
necessarily
a prophet
but-
or as a leader.
not necessarily, but like as a essentially the ruler of their
Oh, okay.
religion.
Could be.
I'm wondering because
Yeah.
you know, if it was because it says it was presided over by the King of the Jews, that would apply if they were implying Jesus Christ, that would be confirming in their mind that he was the King of the Jews.
Right.
So that's why I'm wondering if it was somebody else. Like their quote unquote person that they held in high esteem as a leader.
Yeah,
that
could
point in
have
time.
been.
But
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. There wasn't much clarification on that.
Monmouth isn't alive, so we
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
just
and he
go
didn't really
ask.
clarify it that much. I think coming from Monmouth, I think a lot of the truth was stretched,
Yeah.
and a lot of the
Yeah.
mythology was just kind of played out. And as we've seen over the centuries, the accusation of ritual murder became more normal and more codified. By 1235 in France, the desecration of Christian Easter that formed the backbone of these putative Passover celebrations had expanded to include consumption of the blood of children. This was in accordance with a Jewish custom, quote unquote, to celebrate communion on Easter Sunday with the blood of Christian children. This was written by historian Joshua Trachtenberg in a seminal 1943 study called The Devil and Jesus. If sacramental wine became the blood of Christian children, an evil kind of transubstantiation occurred. Eventually, the theory evolved to include the idea that Jews even mixed Christian blood in their Passover bread. These accusations have driven countless crimes against the Jews, from organized, basically kind of like organized, what am I looking for? Public executions, stuff like that, harassment. In the Middle Ages to social media harassment in the 21st century. But a new version of it drives Q discourse. The modern blood libel takes the form of paranoia over adrenochrome. And this is kind of the new blood libel.
Yep.
Is adrenochrome, a supposed super drug extracted from the adrenal glands of live children to give eternal life to its consumers. The term has never appeared in a Q drop, though. But adrenochrome is still referenced constantly in the discourse of Q promoters, to the point where a number of major news outlets wrote both about it in the struggle to understand why so many people were getting sucked into Q. Adrenochrome and Q fit together very easily. Yeah, very interesting. Adrenochrome is indeed a chemical compound, oxidized adrenaline, an easily available substance used to aid blood clotting. So they do use it in medical practices to aid blood clotting. So adrenochrome is real. You can actually buy it. You can buy it in powder form.
Now, is it just coincidence that one of the people tied to adrenochrome and everything else is Hillary Clinton, and we know she has a blood clotting issue?
Interesting. I did not know this. I did not know that she had a blood clotting issue.
Yeah. There's accounts from Secret Service agents and stuff like that of when she goes places and she sits down, she'll actually have to have her legs propped up a lot of times because she is afraid of clotting in her legs.
What? I did not know this.
Yeah, a lot of this
I did
came
not come
out when
across this.
remember when she like fainted or whatever while she was getting into her vehicle?
Yeah, I remember
when
that.
she was running for president.
Yes.
A lot of it came out during that. There was a lot of that she had some health issues with clotting and things like that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, the conspiracy theory thickens.
Again,
so to speak.
Like we've been saying every freaking episode, there's granules of truth in every single one of their theories.
God, this almost makes me want to go on the Q side. I just want to convert over to Q entirely.
Like we said at the start of the episode with the Jews and Soros and stuff like that being in charge.
I'm all in.
Now
Q,
we've got freaking
I'm in Q.
Hillary Clinton
You converted
takes adrenochrome.
Me. God.
Adrenochrome helps with clotting. She actually legitimately has clotting issues.
This is amazing to me. This is blowing my mind right now. My mind is blown.
Child sex trafficking is an issue in the U.S.
God. Oh my God. Well,
by some of the biggest name people in the United States.
Crazy.
There are pieces of truth in every one of their little stupid theories that are like, wait a second, something's wrong here.
Right. Wow. Well, continuing on, if we can continue on, because my mind is blown.
I love bringing up things that you didn't know.
Wow. In 1952, while studying the causes of schizophrenia, the scientists John Smithies, Humphrey Osmond, and Abram Hoffer theorized that heavy amounts of adrenochrome could trigger schizoid episodes or could cause a more potent high than any known hallucinogenic at the time. Okay. But writing in 1954, the trio warned that those who are familiar with mescaline and lysergic acid, we would emphasize that judging from the little experience we have, it does seem that adrenochrome is more insidious than those two hallucinogens, quote unquote. Well, it was Aldous Huxley soon grabbed onto this idea in The Doors of Perception, referencing the adrenochrome hypothesis for schizophrenia and claiming the compound can produce many of the symptoms of mescaline intoxication. So Aldous Huxley, if you don't know, was definitely a proponent of hallucinogens. Particularly, he did a study on himself, taking many doses of mescaline and basically writing his accounts of what he experienced in The Doors of Perception. Very good book. I would definitely recommend it. Very good. And so thereafter, it has been a mainstay in science, sci-fi, and drug fiction. It shows up as a superdrug in Anthony Burgess's A Clockwork Orange. Yeah. And then also a book by Dune's author, Frank Herbert. But adrenochrome is really well known for in pop culture by a book written by Hunter S. Thompson called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yes.
So, good book. And I don't know if did you see the movie?
I did not.
Yeah,
no.
with Johnny Depp. Very good movie too. I think it's really out there, but fantastic. I love movies like that. They just kind of just play with your whole idea of what's kind of normal in movie making, and just kind of takes you on that trip. So anyway, Hunter S. Thompson described the narcotic was so powerful it made pure mescaline seem like ginger beer. Now this was him. Now you got to remember, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was a fiction.
Yeah.
A story about two guys going across the country, going out to Las Vegas, high on many drugs. They were taking various drugs, and so one of them was adrenochrome. So Thompson also added to the mythology that it was harvested from the adrenal glands of a living human body. It could not be a dead body.
Yeah.
It had to be living. All of this, the powerful properties of adrenochrome, the need to get it from a living person, its scarcity would eventually show up in Q's iconography. So, but Hunter S. Thompson came out and said, "No, I made this up. I don't know much about this drug at all. I made this all up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a hallucinogen or not. It was just pure fiction."
Yeah.
But Q gravitated towards it, grabbed a hold of it, and ran with it. Q's social media was also full of rumors of Jews drinking the blood of children, including since deleted videos with names like Jew ritual blood libel sacrifice is #adrenochrome. How lovely. How lovely that is.
What a great name. What a great name.
But Q wasn't only fashioned out of anti-Semitism and blood libel tropes. If it were, it would be easier to refute and less appealing to Q's ever-expanding audience. Some of what powers Q's is the same thing that's driven intel-laden conspiracy theories for decades. Old-schooled greed. So the other thing that's powering Q is greed.
Yeah.
But it isn't greed in the sense of like affinity fraud or like a lot of these scams that are linked to like fraud and money fraud.
Yeah. Yep.
A couple of the groups, Omega Supreme was one of the big ones. Nasara was another fraud scheme. Like if you invest so much money in us or in this particular thing, you'll receive so much money in return. And a lot of people succumbed to those scams. I think there were two big scams, particularly back in the 80s, I believe, that flourished. And so, even now, though, with all the interest and disappointments that Nasara and the Omega Supreme had, they become more popular since QAnon arrived. Both Nasara and the dinar, which is the
Okay.
currency that was used over in Iraq. When
Oh,
we went
okay.
in to invade Iraq, that's the currency that was used over there. And the dinar, I think it's called
Sure.
dinar. Um, there was a scam that specifically was defrauding several of Q believers, and it was profiled in a 2021 article in the Huffington Post. So, all the while, they stayed addicted to what skeptics deemed hopium. So, a lot of these Q believers, you know, just hope that something in return is going to be bigger and better. The relentless and inexhaustible hope of a better future passed down through secret knowledge and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so instead of money, what Q is pushing, they're pushing this hopium aspect,
Yeah.
that hope that everything will get better.
Yeah.
Hope that will bring down the secret cabals and the deep state that is sacrificing our children in this blood libel for adrenochrome to feed Hillary Clinton's blood clotting
Right.
issues. Crazy. And the numbers from the various dinar, I think dinar, we'll go with dinner. Dinar
Dinner
prosecutions are staggering. So what had happened is that after we invaded Iraq, that people who invested back into the dinar was expected to increase in value
Yeah.
after our attack. And so there were a lot of schemes to get people to reinvest into the dinar. And then they would receive a lot of money in return because of the not the reevaluation
Oh, okay. Yep.
of the currency going up. So there was $600 million defrauded in this scam by a dinar broker firm, Sterling Currency Group. There was also a $24 million dinar fraud in Ohio that went down in 2015, and $2 million defrauded in a dinar scheme in Virginia that was busted in 2019. And the indictment of a top, they would consider him a really leader in this whole group, Tony Renfro, for running a $1.6 million investment fraud scheme in 2015. But Q didn't sell currency or investments, but good feelings and community.
Well, yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't promise vast riches, but the destruction of America's enemies. It didn't defraud you. It built you up and gave you a sense of purpose. And it evaded law enforcement by technically not doing anything wrong at all.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, yeah.
I was going to say, for the most part, they're non-violent, just kind of there. They have their
Right.
theories, but they don't do much other than maybe protest every once in a while.
Yeah. Right. Well, the first time President Donald Trump shared QAnon content was on November 25th, 2017, just weeks after the first Q drops on 4chan. Trump retweeted an account called @MegaPill, sharing a link to a site created by that account called the President Donald Trump Accomplishment List website. But @MegaPill was no ordinary mega hat wearing Trump organization or one person, a disciple or whatever. They were also a supporter of the conspiracy, of the QAnon conspiracy theories altogether. So, and for a while, the QAnon adherent in Trump's timeline appeared to be an outlier. And it would be almost another year before Trump would share material from another Q-linked account. But in early 2019, Trump was routinely retweeting QAnon promoting accounts, including an account whose avatar was a flaming Q wearing a MAGA hat. By the 2020 election, Trump had retweeted hundreds of QAnon promoting accounts and was sharing the memes created by members of the movement on a regular basis. And it wasn't just Donald Trump's Twitter that was becoming more receptive to Q and the ideas they were promoting. QAnon saw an explosion in growth across all platforms, with countless new members being pulled into Q's ever expanding story of a secret and silent war between good and evil. So that's kind of funny. I mean, do you think Trump really knew what he was tweeting?
I think he saw a positive post about him and said, "Yes, check this out, post." That honestly, I think you said something about it in one of our last episodes. There was something else I saw in one of the things I was watching about when I was getting ready to do this one, where somebody asked Trump a question about QAnon, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't know much about them, but I hear they like me, so they can't be that bad, right?"
Yeah.
Or something along those lines.
Yeah, that was the last part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that he had quoted that.
And it was like, yeah, I think, because they look at him as a hero figure, he's just gonna be like, "Hey, they like me. I'm trying to make the world a better place. So yeah, fuck it. Sure. If they
Right.
want to think I'm fighting an evil cabal of, pedophile sex traffickers, then let them think that, because at the same time, they're not 100% wrong. He was trying to go up against a lot of child pedophilia and sex trafficking stuff. It just wasn't as crazy as a lot of QAnon believers believe it was. And I don't
Right.
think Trump thought it was that crazy either. I just think he was like, yeah, yep, yeah, I'm fighting for some honesty in this whole pedophilia
Sure.
area and this child sex trafficking area. If they want to think it's a bunch
Eh,
of Satanists bleeding kids, I mean,
Go
whatever.
ahead.
Hey, it's mutual. Like, we're going for the same goal. So yeah, sure. If they want
Yeah.
to look at me as a hero, they can look at me as a hero. I'm not going to
Sure.
tell them not to.
Yeah, it'd be like a Q supporter would ask Trump, "Hey, do you support child sex trafficking?"
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, yeah, he's against it and he's going to bring down the whole organization. I mean, where it's just
Right.
blown out of proportion.
Yeah,
You
like,
know?
I mean, it would be essentially if I came up to you and was like, "Hey, Ron, how do you feel about people killing kids?"
Right.
And you're like, "Oh, it's terrible. And if I ever see something happening, I'm going to try and do my best to do
Sure.
something about it." And I go, "Oh my goodness, Ron is a new superhero because he's going to be fighting crime against people killing
Right.
kids." And
Right.
it's like, I don't know if I'm a superhero, but I'm going to do what I can to make sure somebody doesn't do it if
Yeah.
I see it.
Right.
Like,
And if they're supporting me because of it, great.
yeah.
Wonderful. I don't know about the other people that are involved in this organization, how crazy they might be and how far out they might be in some of their actions. I'm not responsible for that. I'm only responsible for me
Yeah,
and what I
as long as
say.
my actions are okay, then
Right.
whatever.
I can't be responsible for a lot of these people that
Yeah.
are involved, say, within QAnon. But,
Yeah.
you know, so, I don't think Trump really realized
Yeah.
QAnon and what some of
Yeah.
them were doing,
Yeah.
and how extreme they could be.
Yeah, because I mean, whether you like Trump or not, he was a narcissist.
Of course he was, and
He
he was all
was
about
like,
Trump.
he didn't care about beyond what he was doing.
Right,
I
right.
firmly believe he was trying to make things better.
I do.
Whether it was for his own personal gain or not, whatever, if it was, if I'm going to try and make the United States a better place for people to
Mhm.
live in, so people look at me and think I'm a great person, I don't give a shit. You're trying to make something look better. And as long as these people are acknowledging him as trying to do a better job, he's going to look at that and go, fuck yeah. Yep, that's as far as I go. I don't care beyond that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, I kinda I agree with you. I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, you almost have, like, you have somebody that's in a leadership role,
Yeah,
like Trump was,
yeah,
and then you have QAnon believers that are thinking that Trump is against pedophilia and child sex trafficking. He wants to drain the swamp. He knows that there is corruption within government. And I think maybe in his heart of hearts, I'm going to give Trump the benefit of the doubt and say that he probably honestly felt that there was a lot of corruption within government, and a lot of that needed to be cleaned out and cleaned up. And so when you're I would assume a member of Q or somebody who's following a lot of the tweets and posts and stuff like that is kind of getting sucked into it and sees this individual that's trying to change things like this and is believing that there is a deep state within our government that needs to be cleaned up. You got somebody in that position.
Trump is an easy superhero.
Yeah, very easy, no matter if he is a megalomaniac or not.
Right.
No matter if he stumbles over his words and it doesn't articulate too well as far as in his communication with people and within certain situations like the pandemic and everything. Still, you're going to put him up there high on a pedestal because he's in that position to possibly think, particularly if you're a person that believes that the president of the United States can change everything and can make a complete difference and is not a puppet of, say, some new world order, but is free and independent and can do his own thing. Of course, why not kind of codify the individual like Trump? And
half of that was the draw to Trump, though. The fact that he didn't talk like every other politician. He wasn't a Barack Obama that had this perfect speaking voice that really, was super professional. He was, he has a shit ton of money and he is in a totally different class than you and me.
Right.
But at the same time, personality wise, I feel like he's somebody who would sit down and have a shot at the leaky still with us. Like he's a guy who you would go to a barbecue with. He's a guy you would see that you would talk to at work. He had that persona, that personality of, everything he said didn't have to be correct politically. Like hell, everything he said didn't have to be actually correct. Like one of the
we'll see what happened when it comes to COVID-19. We talk about that. Yeah, that's coming up.
Funny things about Trump, I forget who said it. Ah, crap! I'm gonna get the quote wrong, but he is the most honest, dishonest politician the U.S. has ever seen.
That's a good quote. Whoever said that is great.
He will lie about the stupidest stuff. Like the most basic stupid things in the world, he will lie about. And he'll make up a story and like people are like, oh my God, and it blows their minds. But then again, he'll turn around and he will be brutally honest about like, yeah, we sell weapons to Syria because it's fucking good money. Like, why wouldn't we? And then people are like, wait, we're totally selling weapons to this country that we're not okay with because it makes us money. Like, why are you saying this? Like, that's supposed to be like, that's the secret that people aren't supposed to know.
But I think that's the appeal of Trump.
Yeah,
exactly. Or was the appeal of Trump and probably still is.
Yeah, it's when it comes to some things that are brutally honest, he is there and he will say, hey, this is what's going on.
Well, we know a lot of people can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
A lot of people, we know this stuff is going on, but we just don't want to, many of us don't want to acknowledge it and go, yeah, this is what's happening.
Which is where we can actually tie it back to Q, because they see this guy who is blowing the world up, telling all the like quote unquote deep state secrets that we're not supposed to know, all this information that has been kind of hidden from the public eye, that has just been rumor and everything else. This guy is saying the secret stuff out loud now. Like, yeah, he's bullshitting about the normal stuff, but who doesn't bullshit about the normal stuff? He's saying everything that we've been trying to figure out and putting it out in the open.
Right.
So yeah, it makes sense that they draw to him,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It definitely does. But, Q had survived a string of failures that included Robert Mueller failing to indict any pedophiles. Indeed, there were no indictments of anyone involved in the deep state, only figures kind of connected to Trump. But the failures didn't seem to matter. Q's presence itself even started to become more obsolete. Q's posts were starting to become erratic and less frequent, often going weeks without a word. Many believers were simply too far gone, adherents to a movement whose faith had become absolute. So they didn't care. They were just deep into it. They were
Oh yeah.
ingrained in it, tooth and nail. Kind of taken on a messianic and unshakable faith in Trump, Q, and the righteousness of the plan of draining the swamp. They kind of they seen, like we were just talking about, Trump to be this messianic figure, like we were saying, which makes sense,
Oh yeah.
and this plan of draining the swamp and uncovering the deep state. Just after Trump retweeted the Flaming Q branded account, a Trump rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
Oh hey.
was swamped by QAnon followers to the point where one longtime Q watcher, the NBC, I believe it's a reporter for the Dystopia Beat, reporter Ben Collins, tweeted that the size of the Q contingent in the crowd was absolutely shocking. The number of handmade Q signs and shirts was staggering, with rumors going around that the Secret Service had banned all Q memorabilia.
Huh.
Yeah. Within less than a year of Q's first drops, there were thousands of Q branded items for sale on Amazon and Etsy and everywhere. There were GoFundMe pages, and also T-shirts were showing up on Teespring, a huge T-shirt online shop, I guess. So, and some Q believers were so devoted to cashing in on the movement that they actually attempted to trademark some of Q's most heavily used slogans. Q promoter and new media content creator Dustin Nemos Krieger claimed to Reuters that he had lost between $1 million and $2 million in potential sales. Yeah. So that's how much money a lot of these, merchandisers that were trying to make money off of Q, were making or losing.
Yeah.
So, but with more like the Grand Rapids rally and this invitation, so to speak, to this great awakening that was going to happen, the storm that was coming, proved that far from being the flash in the pan of many recent conspiracy theories, Q had the ability to survive. More people were finding something in QAnon that filled a need in their life. And Google Trends searches for QAnon spiked multiple times that month. Maybe it was the promise of Hillary Clinton finally paying for her many, many crimes that were associated to her and the Clintons.
Many crimes.
A lot of the dead bodies kind of along the way.
Yeah.
So, or maybe it was the fun of and maybe it was the fun of decoding Q's drops and puzzling out their true meaning. The growth of Q's popularity and the matching growth of violent acts perpetrated by its followers, whether they had nothing to do with Q or not, were forcing the mainstream media to give it credence. But this rapidly growing, enthusiastic, prolific group was also ripe for exploitation. Like all cultic movements, dependent on information passed down from top to bottom. The major events in the Q timeline brought publicity, but they also brought scrutiny. With a combination of increasing base of followers and more media focus, Q was needed more than ever, and Q continued to post intermittently, sometimes going weeks without any posts in between each drop.
Yeah.
This left a lot of space for interpretation for the gurus and the people that were out there interpreting a lot of Q drops that were coming through. Well, there was a former mining town turned a tourist haven. Grass Valley is about 60 miles northeast of Sacramento, in a heavily Republican Nevada county in California, with a population of about 13,000. In short, it was an exceedingly unlikely target for a false flag attack by the deep state to kind of generate panic and confusion in the population. Or maybe that's what the deep state wanted you to think. Maybe. So, whatever the case, it was in April of 2019. The Twitter user at Top Info Blogs claimed that they were able to determine that a jihad against an innocent school event in Tiny Grass Valley was on the verge of taking place. At Top Info Blogs, an anonymous account whose job it was to collect, list, and participate and find a hidden message in a tweet by former FBI director turned Trump nemesis James Comey. Jumping on a perfectly harmless Twitter trend on April 27, Comey tweeted hashtag 5 jobs I've had. Grocery store clerk, vocal soloist for a church weddings, a chemist, a strike replacement high school teacher, and an FBI director. Using powers of deduction that can only come from more of a highly attuned ability of a lot of the Q interpreters, at Top Info Blocks figured out that Comey wasn't just goofing off a bit on Twitter, but announcing an upcoming attack that Comey was planning. Well, how did he do that? Well, he decided that 5 jobs I had was short for 5 jihad. Then making an acrostic of the first letters of the 5 jobs and going with the first thing that came up on Google. What he came up was Grass Valley Charter School Foundation was having a Blue Marble Jubilee auction and fundraising event. So on May, at Top Info Blogs made a meme that declared, false flag alert. And rather than go to the FBI with the research, they shared it with Joe M., who was at Storm is Upon Us, a prolific QAnon promoter and conspiracy theorist. So at Top Info Blogs wrote, Joe, have you seen this possible decode of Comey's latest bizarre tweet? It's possibly a coded false flag message, and the possible target is a big school family event at a Nevada fairgrounds. The date is around the time these things will be taking place. Joe M., never one to find a conspiracy theory too bizarre to be real, shared the meme and declared in a now deleted tweet to his hundreds of thousands of meme followers, and declared in a now deleted tweet that nothing better happened at Grass Valley Charter School during their Blue Marble Jubilee on May 11th. The tweet quickly got thousands of retweets.
That sounds like a decoding process that like I would have done in high school because of a video game I saw. Like you take the first letter of each paragraph in the book and you put that together and that'll say something.
Yes.
And that'll lead you to another clue. And then that clue will be your answer.
That's right. And let me Google and let me Google it and let's see what the first thing pops up on Google. Let's see. Oh, that's a school event.
What the fuck?
Right.
Oh, God.
It was the deep, ugly concern of people who were determined to think you're in danger and that it's their job to protect you, while the only real danger is their protection. Really?
Oh, gosh.
Well, I guess the emails and calls started coming in from Q believers to the Grass Valley Charter School. The local Chamber of Commerce and the fairgrounds were where the fundraiser was set to take place. As president of the Grass Valley Charter School Foundation, Wendy Willoughby was the point person to deal with issues like this. But where were you even to start at? because there was so much coming in, so many calls for concern. She didn't know where to start. She was confused by all of this. What is this all about? We're just having an innocent jubilee at our
Like
school
some
for a
random
fundraiser.
school.
Nothing is happening. Why are all these parents concerned? So the next morning, concerned parents started calling the principal to figure out what was going on. What could administrators tell them? Then an anonymous Twitter account told another anonymous Twitter account that James Comey tweeted in code that he was going to attack their fundraiser as part of the war against Donald Trump. And that online digital soldiers were afraid that the festival was going to be the scene of a massive child kidnapping sex ring.
No, see,
none of that definitely was.
Okay.
It had to been reassuring to parents. I mean, if you would have told a parent that was going to happen, imagine being the principal saying, "Well, yeah, we're basically under attack because we have a massive child sex ring going on at our jubilee."
I understand some false flags out there and things of that sort. They make me look and go, okay, I can understand where people would think it was a false flag, and it was this conspiracy that was built up. But come on, at some point,
Right.
you just have to stop. And this is one of those points where you just got to stop.
Right. I mean, there were dozens of calls sent to various local authorities and everything, a warning of a terrorist attack. And in fact, there were some of the QAnon researchers, quote unquote,
Right.
were mistaken Nevada County as Nevada. As the state of Nevada. Right. Yeah, exactly.
I haven't had enough to drink for this yet, Ron. God.
So guess what happened? It was canceled. The Jubilee, the poor Jubilee, the fundraiser was canceled because of this.
Now, what considering you can't prove a negative, what would be crazy is if we found out there was actually a plan to do something at this rally, and they foiled it because they got it canceled.
Well, funny that you mentioned this,
Oh,
Derek.
God.
On May 19th,
Hey, that's my birthday.
8 days after the Blue Marble Jubilee was to take place, the 53-year-old Grass Valley resident Mary Lee Dalton was arrested after liquid explosive bombs were found in her closet. Dalton claimed they belonged to a tenant, and the police couldn't find really an apparent target for the bombs. Bam!
Case closed. Fuck this shit. I'm Q. I am an anon.
That's funny that you brought that up because that's just what happened 8 days after this woman was found to have explosives. Okay. And they could not find a reason why she had the explosives in the closet.
All right.
No idea.
How many grains of sand does it take till you go, holy fuck, what is going on here?
Did Comey hire this woman to actually?
Well, you said it was she claimed it was a previous tenant, right?
She said it was a tenant that left it behind.
Who was the tenant?
So the tenant could have left 8 days after this Jubilee was canceled because, oh my God, they're hot on my tail. I got to leave. I got to take off real quick.
They found out the Jubilee was canceled. They were like, fuck, I got to get out of here.
They're on to me.
They left. And then 8 days after the Jubilee comes around, they go, hey, what's this shit?
Right.
Okay. So, gosh, I officially hate this topic. You've got that where pure honesty, guys. I didn't know he was going to say that. I truly was joking.
Right.
But suspicious much?
Right.
Like, where's the irony in that? Like,
well,
I mean, it could be anything. But at the same time, just, the dotted lines are
Right.
it's close enough to where you can go, okay, something seems fishy here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fishy shit that ties very closely with
Yeah.
QAnon beliefs that are real.
Yeah.
And that one right there is, why'd she have explosives? I don't know. Maybe the previous tenant was going to do something at the festival
Right.
and said, peace out right before because it got canceled.
Well,
You
many of the
know?
Q believers at this time, then when that information actually surfaced,
Yeah.
they were blaming, see, we're right.
Yeah.
We were right.
Yeah. And then what
You
I
know?
meant, what I
But
mentioned
it could,
earlier,
yeah.
with freaking Hillary Clinton. Oh, what do you know? She might actually take adrenochrome because she has a blood clotting issue and she's
She could be
worried about.
actually going for adrenochrome therapy
Yeah.
because of her blood clotting issue, right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, who knows? Maybe she's thinking it's going to keep her younger longer too. You've got child sex trafficking issues. And then Jeffrey Epstein shows up and find out he's
Well,
been protected for the last 30 fucking years because the FBI has been ignoring like victims of his child sex trafficking for like 30 years now.
yeah.
Did you know it was that long? Did you know it was that deep? Yeah, it's been like 30 years
No
since
idea.
people first started coming forward about Jeffrey Epstein, and they just swept it under the rug.
Well, I know he had deep involvement with Victoria's Secret
Like,
and the CEO of
yeah.
Victoria's Secret for quite a long time. And I know he wasn't on on everybody's radar for a long, long time.
And so it's like,
And in fact, John
fuck?
McCain's wife, his widow, came out at a conference, and I think it was on a child sex
Yeah.
trafficking conference, stating that they knew of stuff that was going on within these circles, that there was something going
yeah.
on. And I think she was talking about Jeffrey Epstein
Yeah.
and then being involved with many other individuals within the political
Yeah.
arena, that they knew there's stuff that was going on.
One of these days we're
Or
going to
had
have to
suspicions.
one of these days we're going to have to look into FBI cover-ups
Yeah.
and shit that they've suppressed because it is freaking everywhere. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's disgusting, some of the stuff that they've covered,
Right.
such as Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
Again, one more grain of sand that's
Yeah.
getting into a really big fucking heap here.
I mean,
guys.
could this be coincidence?
It
You
could
know,
be.
that Mary Lee Dalton was arrested on charges for having bombs for whatever reason. It could be a matter of coincidence that just so happens 8 days after this that there were explosives found.
I know nothing about Marie Dalton. I would love to look into information about her because maybe she was just some quack out there that was freaking screwing around with explosives.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't look I didn't look into her either.
At the same time,
so
if she is just your regular, like, suburban mom or whatever that's just happens to have a rental property, then like, does it actually match with her persona? Does it match with what she normally does?
Right.
Because,
or was there somebody that was in the apartment and that, I mean, couldn't they easily just prove that? Couldn't they track down the person that was in the apartment prior and then just say, hey, listen, this is what Mary Lee Dalton is saying, and we're going to have to bring you in on questioning?
It depends.
I mean, you think.
It depends on how much they want to look into it. Because that's the issue with getting the government involved in a conspiracy. Because the conspiracy is that they are the originators of this attack anyways.
Yes.
So if they don't want to find somebody, they're not going to find them. If this chick is like, yeah, so this was my last tenant and I'm pretty sure they left it here, but I don't have like a forwarding address or a way to get a hold of them.
Yeah, possibly.
And then the government goes,
possibly.
Oh, darn, we can't find them. As it's Billy Joe in the office going, hey, dude, you did a great job on that undercover job. Or bimbo over frickin' that's, practically homeless that they bribed to do it. Either way, whichever one it is, whether it's an undercover job by somebody in the agency or it's some poor guy that doesn't know what the fuck he was doing because he got talked into it, like a lot of shit that's coming forward that's ended up happening. I mean, freaking again, I know I mentioned it in one of our previous episodes, but the whole thing with the whole governor kidnapping here in Michigan is, there was more FBI informants and FBI agents involved than actual people, like regular people involved. And some of those people, last I heard, there was like they were actually on the spectrum of some sort. Like there were actual mental issues that they were taking advantage of to talk them into trying to go along with this plot. And it's like, who knows? Maybe that was this person too. Maybe there was somebody that was, trying to convince them to go do something, maybe trying to convince them that, maybe they were like a bit of a QAnon believer, or maybe there were a bit of, something, maybe something on the other side of the aisle where it was, hey, this stuff is going down over at this location over here. You should do something about it and stop it. Wink, wink. Oh, hey, by the way, I happen to have this stuff over here. Wink, wink. We're not going to tell you to blow up this thing, but wink, wink, here you go. They've done it before. The FBI has done it before. I would not put it past them to do it again.
Sure. Yeah. I just think, it's kind of like with a lot of the research with LSD and psychoactive drugs and, back in the 50s and 60s that our government was doing with, with, what am I trying to think of?
I just heard something about it this morning too. Where they did all the LSD testing on civilians. They would give it to like prostitutes to give to their johns, and they tested it on inmates and college students. And
doesn't mean because either they're saying, the government's saying that, well, our results didn't pan out the way we thought, so we're going to stop the research. No, I just, or they were called out on it. Doesn't mean that our government's going to stop doing any nefarious activities. No,
it's a government. They're gonna, if they can get away with it, or if they think they can get away with it, they're gonna try. They've been doing it for eons. There's no reason to stop.
Right. Yeah. So isn't that crazy? That is just so crazy. I mean,
I still can't believe what I was joking about was real.
Yeah. Well, at this time, Q had become a robust community that has survived countless disconfirmations, from being kicked off main social hub and Reddit, numerous ugly national news stories. It hadn't just survived, it had prospered, gaining a core of deeply dug-in patriots to follow it. There was money to be made. Life, such as it is when you're sucked into a joyless conspiracy movement, was good. And like we were saying before, how much good really, I've never really heard of anything good coming out of somebody who follows Q. Kind of like if somebody, follows a really positive movement that, say a religious movement, or takes up exercise, or it becomes a very top-notch motivational speaker and it begins to influence people's lives in a positive way. I have not seen anybody within the Q circles actually influencing people or have been really happy about what they're doing. It seems like it's all just this, paranoia, fear, and anger. And
my question is that media coverage?
True.
Because
true.
During our last episode, I was telling you I had seen an interview at it was a sex trafficking awareness event that was going on. It was a fundraiser for it, and the leader happened to be a Q supporter. Well, the person that was doing the interview was like really goaded him on, because they were like, what is this for? And blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, it's for, to raise awareness for child sex trafficking and this stuff. And they were like, are you sure it's not for QAnon?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, we saw that you posted 2 days ago this QAnon tweet, blah, 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 that supported QAnon. And it did that. And it's like, maybe the guy is honestly concerned about child sex trafficking and realizes that it's a problem because it is here in the United States. It is a big problem, and I think people need to pay attention
Yeah.
to it. And he's honestly just trying to do something good. His QAnon beliefs are just a side set, or maybe it's what drew him into this.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
maybe there was something else that he went, wow, this QAnon stuff's pretty crazy. I'm going to look into it. And then he got into the child sex trafficking portion. And maybe he's one of the normal, quote unquote, normal people out there that are going, okay, I see there is an issue. We are having these issues with, Epstein and all this other stuff. I know Epstein's kind of our go-to because it's kind of the big one, but like we're having these issues with child sex trafficking, even outside of Epstein. Heck, we have known major hubs here in the US for sex trafficking of children.
Yeah. I think one of the major hubs is Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the hubs. And I believe Chicago is
Heck,
another
there's
major
a
hub.
place here in Michigan
Yes,
that's
you're
known
right.
for
There
it.
is a place here in Michigan that's a very central hub to
Yeah,
it. I
and
think it's somewhere down by Detroit, I believe.
And it's like, so maybe Q pulls him in, he notices this issue and goes, I'm going to try and do something more in my community. I am going to try and get this fundraiser going and head this fundraiser so we can raise awareness. And it has I'm going to leave QAnon out of this. This is not the reason I'm doing it, even though they got me started on it.
Right.
I'm going to do it for this reason. And I am concerned about our children. And then the freaking news media comes in and blows it out of proportion and goes, but you're a QAnon believer on top of it. So you're trying to like take over this perfectly okay thing, this perfectly good thing of fundraising for this, and you're trying to turn it into a Q thing. And he's probably sitting there going, I just wanted to do a fundraiser to help child sex trafficking, and you're the ones making it about QAnon now. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm sincerely wondering how many people have had a positive influence because of QAnon that are trying to raise awareness, but because of the media coverage of QAnon, it ruins everything.
Sure. And I think to your point, I think there's a lot of people that follow QAnon that are everyday people that work everyday normal jobs that are doing whatever job they're doing good in that job. There could be people that are within social services that are doing a great job that do follow Q, and in some ways, because of Q, inspires them to do a better job, say within social services.
Yeah.
Because, they're seeing child abuse probably within these families, and they're trying to actually save these children, trying to make sure that these children are safe. So, and in fact, Q, that seems to be such a bad thing, I think is a bad thing depending on the person that's interpreting the Q's message. Because you can take a person, like you were saying, that individual who's doing such a positive thing within child sex trafficking, but you also could take a person that's, say, working in a normal job, say a social service job, for example, that is very down to earth, that is inspired by Q's message to do a little bit more good for his or her community.
Yep.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Not everyone in Q is a psychopath.
Right.
Like I can almost guarantee you there's a lot of very normal people.
It makes me question the media's motives besides sensationalism.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who are they? In some ways, here's the conspiracy hat that I'm putting on. Who are they being controlled by?
Yeah.
Who is who is controlling the narrative?
Yeah.
Is it our government that's controlling the narrative?
Yeah.
Or is it just the media alone? Who knows?
Heck,
for sensationalism purposes? Who knows?
There was a video I was going to show you when I came here today, because I watched it earlier this morning on, it was, I can't remember if it was the Blood Libel or Adrenochrome. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it dealt with, child sex trafficking, all that kind of stuff. And I would believe it was put out by Vice. And it was talking about, they were going in on a QAnon and all this stuff and on their beliefs for everything. and they started talking about Donald Trump, and that was actually where I had seen this morning the questions asked of Donald Trump if he knew about QAnon and stuff like that. And he was like, I hear they support me, so freaking they sound pretty good in my book. That's where I had heard that from. But they followed it up at the very end of their little talk about it was when your presidential candidate lies so much, you have to turn them into this, satanic fighting, demon killing, like superhero to make them even sound the halfway decent. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. Your bias is showing here a little bit. You've got Donald Trump where, yeah, he's not the most honest, but he's a freaking politician and he's a human. None of them are honest. Like
kind of goes with the game.
They're all lying narcissists.
Yeah.
So what about it? Tell me something I didn't freaking know.
Right.
And then you're saying that, to make him look good, that you have to turn him into this, freaking superhero that's going after freaking vampires that drink blood. Like, no, that's not what you have to do. You have to look at his record and you go, okay, he did some pretty good shit for our country, and then move on from there. Like, you don't have to say that. You don't have to be obviously politically biased when you're covering something like this. Like, yeah, if you don't agree with QAnon, that's fine. QAnon is a conspiracy group. I don't care. But like, why do you have to make it super biased?
Right.
Like, why can't you just cover it as this is what these people believe, this is how it's going, this is what happened,
right,
and fucking leave it there? You did your story. Why do you have to have your 2 cents?
Sure. I mean, that's the way news used to be reported back in the 50s and 60s. I mean, it used to be very non-biased. Walter Cronkite would come on. As far as we know, Walter Cronkite would come on. I don't know what he was on.
They at least did
ABC. I don't even know if they had network. I don't even know what network he was on at the time, but he would come on and just deliver the news. This is what happened.
Yeah.
Good night.
And even
that's
even
it.
if there was a bias to it, they covered it a lot better. Like, even if there was a bias to the way they covered the news and the message that they got across, they weren't overtly biased about it. Like, nowadays, there is no fucks given. They will not try and cover it. They will not try and sugarcoat it. They will call out. If you don't agree with their political agenda, they will say, screw you, you're wrong. This is what's going on. This is what I believe.
Yeah.
Instead of just going, hey, this is what happened.
Right.
And whether it's something they were fed or not, whatever, but they weren't going, this is what happened and fuck you too. It was just, this is what's happening.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we go back to that? I don't care if you have a political bias. Just, there's no need to jam it down our freaking throat every time we turn on the TV or watch a movie or anything like that.
Right.
Like, come on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. And that's so true. And it happens so much more just because I think of, just because of the internet and just because, I mean, information is so easily accessible now. Social media is just, is grown just rampantly huge, and you can have everybody having every opinion from A to Z.
Well, and we're all
on their platform.
Brats. We're all spoiled brats nowadays.
But that's our right.
As though we have, like, everyone needs to know our opinion. I mean, yes, I understand the irony of us having a podcast and us spewing our own opinion on our podcast, but we aren't claiming to be news media that is supposed to be covering something that should be non-biased. That should be this is what's happening. This is what we've looked up. This is what our opinion is show, not this is just the hard facts of what you need to know to know what's going on in the world.
Right.
Like, but people nowadays feel as though that they have that, like, everyone needs to know that now. And it's like, no, we don't. We don't need to know your personal opinion.
Sure.
Whether you are a news anchor, whether you're a teacher, whether you're
Well,
athlete. We don't need to know your personal opinion.
and the other thing about that is that if they voice their personal opinion, if it's contrary to whatever is being, say, talked about
Yep.
on whatever social media platform, let's just take Twitter, for example, that personal opinion, if grouped together with another or larger group of people, should not have the right to deplatform that
Yeah.
other person and their opinion.
Yeah.
That's the issue. That's the issue. Just because you have this personal opinion, and I think everybody has the right to express whatever personal opinion, but somebody should not be given the right to pull somebody else's opinion off a certain platform because it's contrary, say, to a certain group of people.
Yeah. Like, and I can almost guarantee you would never hear somebody like me on CNN without being viewed as a crazy person. You know, I would get canceled instantly because I think that you should be able to have your own opinion, and that's not okay in the mainstream nowadays.
Right.
Like, you have to toe the line or else you're going to get canceled. Like,
sure. Yeah, there's a lot of individuals that has to happen to. I mean, here recently, Jordan Peterson was kicked off, I believe, of Twitter because of some personal opinions that he has had, and he's been marginalized because of a lot of his political, religious, and personal opinions too. Just because you don't agree with the guy doesn't mean you can marginalize him or kick him off a certain platform. Those platforms need to be open and free and be able to express your opinion no matter what, if it's contrary to something else or somebody else's opinion. And so
sounds like we're going back to our censorship episode.
It really does. It really does. Well, this does have a lot to do with censorship too. I mean, Q has had its run-ins with that problem as well. Well, Q seemed to be invulnerable, but the same could not be said for 8chan, Q's home since December of 2017. And this is kind of where 8kun comes in. We're trying to figure out 8chan, 4chan, 2chan, 8kun. Well, this is kind of where it comes in at and why Q is bouncing and bouncing. So Texas resident opened, well, because what had happened is that on 8chan, there were a lot of posts. And so we're just going to just list some posts that were posted to 8chan and why 8chan was such a controversial forum to post your stuff, particularly for Q. So a Texas resident opened fire at a Walmart in El Paso with an AR-15, killing 23 people and wounding 23 more. He uploaded his manifesto to 8chan. Remember that?
Yep.
Remember this one? Christchurch, New Zealand. Shooter who killed 51 people and the shooter who opened fire at a synagogue in Poway, California, and killed one person. It also openly referenced both the Christchurch shooting and unmoderated racist discussions that made up so much of 8chan's niche appeal. Yeah. Then there were 3 manifestos by 3 alleged shooters, all uploaded to 8chan's POL board, whose users had cheered on the Christchurch shooter as he live streamed his rampage. And I remember all of that going down too. That was just crazy. Then when Cloudflare pulled 8chan's protection from hacking, a major denial of service attack by an unknown hacker immediately brought the image board down, silencing Q in the process. So a few days later, when 8chan users founded a clone of the site on a peer-to-peer network after it had went down, but they realized they were exposing their IP addresses and opening themselves up to accidentally downloading child porn.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So they actually, they tried to, bring up another similar forum like 8chan, but totally botched that one. So over the next 3 months, Jim Watkins and his son, Ron, tried a number of different avenues to get their board back up and running, rebranding it as 8kun or 8kun or 8kun.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
A name change meant to denote that the Chan, which is an honorific name used in Japanese to express affection for babies, children, and honored elders has grown into kun, denoting an older and more respected person in Japanese language. So that's
is it
where
going to
it
go
all
from
comes
Jackie
in.
Chan to Jackie Coon?
Jackie Coon, yeah. After a while, the Watkins finally found a new web host, a Vancouver, Washington programmer named Nick Lim, who had founded the internet service provider BitMitigate, which also hosted the neo-Nazi message board, the Daily Stormer. Geez, so you go from one fire into another fire, from 8chan that's posting all of this stuff, from all of the shootings that were happening at Christchurch and all of the anti-Semitism,
Yeah.
uploads that they were getting. Now they're going on to a neo-Nazi type of
Oh, yeah, you go
message
from that
board.
to child porn to neo-Nazis. I mean,
Yeah. So, well, Nick Lim retweeted 8kun will be back and stronger than ever before. And so eventually it found a home with a Russian hosting site called Media Land, a host credibly connected by cybersecurity researchers to a wide array of credit card fraud schemes, malware, and phishing scams. So thanks to a host located in the Russian port city of Vladivostok and a few hours from the North Korean border, the great American patriot Q was back.
All right, so here,
but within Russia and very close to North Korea.
This right here shows the problem with censorship.
There you go.
You can't post Q stuff on things like Facebook and Twitter because you get banned, so they can't move there. So they try and stay on 8chan. 8chan, shit hits the fan, things go
But look
wrong.
at the shit that the 8chan was posting. It was a Wild West, man.
Oh, it was, but it's the only place
West.
that they're allowed. It's the only place QAnon is allowed, is on a site that's the Wild West, because the regular mainstream sites won't allow it.
Right.
So then you try something else.
Well, at this time, Q was not kicked off the mainstream sites. They were still posting on Facebook and Twitter as well. Many of the drops that were initially happening were being originally posted to 8chan, but a lot of the, I guess, people that were following Q were posting their own stuff on Facebook and Twitter. So,
but the question is, how many of the people would Facebook or Twitter, or maybe they felt, maybe the infamous Q felt that if they tried to post on Facebook and Twitter, they would have been kicked off. Pretty quickly anyways.
Or maybe by posting on sites like this, that it seemed a little bit more covert. A little bit more secretive that way too.
But then they get, they're not able to post as readily on these other sites, unless you're just somebody else out there posting something, as long as you're not claiming to be Q, they're like, okay, but we'll just kind of shadow ban. We're just not gonna we'll let you post that, but we're just not gonna show it. Hush hush. Because you've got 20 followers, nobody gives a shit, or everyone that follows you is a family member or somebody you went to school with. We don't care. Who cares? Just shove you off to the side. Where if it was Q posting on Facebook and it was millions of followers across the globe, they'd go up, false information, block. Pretty quickly.
Sure. Yes.
And so maybe they felt that. I can only assume they may have felt that, and then went, okay, so the only place I can go is this really not a great site. And then they're like, well, we're going to try and redo this, and we're going to do it this way. And then you've got, essentially bad apples in a group trying to do a, peer-to-peer thing where they're like, hey, they can't shut us down if we're just sending this peer-to-peer. And then you click on a link and it goes, oh shit, child porn. Fuck that. Like,
Yeah. Right.
it puts you in the position to only get to deal with the worst of the worst. You only get to deal with bad apples if you don't get to post somewhere else.
Right.
So I
Yep.
don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of, what is the lesser of the two evils?
Like, do you let them post on Facebook and stuff like that? So it's openly and readily available for people to go, that's bullshit. Or do you do it on some secret SCSI server over here where you might run into child porn and 100 other things because they don't really moderate, and just let it run wild?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what happened. They just let it run wild on these other sites where there's no moderation and they're not going to be told to stop or get corrected.
And you see, I mean, this is a whole nother censorship podcast. Should this stuff be allowed to be posted? I mean, that's a whole different censorship podcast. I mean, we went from a first podcast that we opened up our whole podcast about was censorship, and now there's also different branches of it. Yeah. Should this be allowed? Should this be allowed? Should this be allowed? Should this be deplatformed? Should this be kicked off? What should be allowed to be communicated on these platforms? Should child porn be allowed to be uploaded? Should neo-Nazis have a platform to stand on and talk about their beliefs? Should they?
As long as it's legal, yes.
Yeah, child porn?
Necessarily
no.
But that's not legal either.
That's not legal. No. Well, yeah. Well, it's
here in the U.S. It's not legal. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean that's a shady area because there's a lot of child porn that goes undetected, or there's a lot of, again, we're getting to child sex trafficking that is known about but is never followed up on.
Yep.
The book never comes out. It's all swept under the rug. Again, Jeffrey Epstein and probably many others. Where it is going on, and it seems like children do not have the rights that they deserve.
Yeah.
That the children are basically seen as
they're pawns in the game of the adults play.
It seems to be.
That's all they are.
That children are not
every adult. It's the rich and powerful adults.
Right. Yep. Are seen and not heard.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, and it's sad. It's sad. But anyway, onward. We gotta continue on.
Move forward.
So, but the universe would have other plans for the Q movement. While Trump would stumble through the events to come, Q would only grow bigger, more violent, and into ever more of a conspiracy theory of everything, all thanks to the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When COVID-19 transformed the world in March of 2020, Q suddenly became much less focused on indictments and much more wrapped up into the zeitgeist of the pandemic. With the population dependent on the internet for a line to the outside world, the conspiracy theories seemed to spread as fast as the coronavirus itself. Questions were asked. Did Bill Gates patent the coronavirus strain that was killing thousands?
Yes.
Let's go yes. Yeah, Bill Gates. Yes, you did. No, I don't know. I don't know you, Bill Gates. I have no idea if you patent this strain or not, but you would have enough money to do it.
Okay, I don't know if he did, but if you ever look into some of the shit that they did pre-pandemic, it's pretty crazy.
I know. Media and Big Pharma actually cooked up the entire coronavirus panic as a hoax to make sure Donald Trump didn't win the second term in November? Maybe? Was it all fake? Was it just a bad flu? Or a planned genocide of the people the cabal discarded as useless eaters? And they use that term, yes. Useless eaters, yes. Yeah. I mean, we all had our thoughts. I mean, when this all happened, I was the first one to jump on board going, why is everybody making a big deal of this?
Right.
This is just the flu. Coronaviruses have existed for years and years. The common cold is a coronavirus, for God's sake.
Well, I was going to say, I for one can say the coronavirus is a real thing. I had my, essentially my stepdad pass away from it. I had it and I should have been hospitalized, but was not.
Yes, you should
because
have.
I'm a stubborn old man.
We know
damn
what
it.
that podcast was like when you came back.
I was so stubborn. That was a
Yeah.
bad time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, when you look into it, there are questions. You know, if you look into like the big pharma side of it and like how they pushed everything from, you know, YouTube, don't kick us off the air because we're talking about this. I don't think it's in their terms of service anymore, so I think we should be all right.
Okay.
But masks, they bounce back and forth. Are they useful? Are they not useful?
Right.
Now there's studies coming out saying, hey, masks weren't that useful. Like we knew this back then, but you know, we had to kind of cover it because we wanted you guys to wear a mask. And it's coming out that masks aren't as near as useful as they thought they were.
Yes.
Or as useful as they portrayed them to be.
Sure.
You know, the whole shutdown, stay in your home thing, again, not very useful. They looked back at it and went, holy shit, it did more harm than good. Like there's a lot of research and a lot of studies done that are saying, hey, this negatively impacted what like our nowadays life, to where if we wouldn't have done this, we probably would have been better off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole push for the vaccine thing. Again, there's a lot of studies coming out now going, hey, you know, it wasn't as necessary for us to push as hard as we did.
Yeah.
And the testing, freaking Pfizer wanted to be able to withhold their findings during their human trials and everything else for what, like 150 years or some shit like
Isn't that crazy?
Because they knew their shit, like there was shit in their files that weren't great.
Well, that's a lot of the tests, a lot of the the tests that they were doing were inconclusive.
Yeah. And then nowadays, now we have that what is it? The new one for, I think it's the Omicron variant, the new booster for that. It hasn't had human studies yet. The only studies it's had has been on like 5 rats. And they're trying to push for it being okayed by the FDA. After being tested on only rats. People, listen. Those of you out there in the world today, I am not lying. You can look it up. It is out there. The only thing they have tested the new booster shot on are rats.
So
they are pushing it through.
I don't understand. They've had all of this time to do human studies safely.
It's their new one. It's their new because each one they have to change it a little bit to you know, the effectiveness and blah 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 blah.
Sure.
And now they're just saying, fuck it, we're just going to push it through. Yeah, no, we didn't do human studies yet. We just tested it
but
on like
what's the rush now? What is the rush? I can understand at the beginning of the coronavirus. I can understand why there was a rush. We didn't know too much about the coronavirus, and frankly, we still don't know much about it to this date. We don't know why some people die from it, other than a lot of the rhetoric in the media that if you're obese or if you have certain underlying conditions, you could die from it. But there are people that go asymptomatic. There are people that get full-blown coronavirus symptoms. There are people that just get slight symptoms. We don't know, even to this date, enough about the coronavirus. And so I understand at the beginning when we didn't know. But why now?
I can tell you exactly why Pfizer is pushing. It's more money.
Big pharma.
Oh, hell yeah. All the way. Because, you know, at the start of the pandemic, the government was just pumping money into those places. They are some of the only money. They were some of the big ones that where most of our economy was crashing. They were skyrocketing.
And I've always had my theories on that too. Conspiracy theory, I guess you would kind of say, would be that the reason why we're pushing this. Why we're pushing this is because, and this is just in my own thoughts. My own thoughts is because we want to get this out, and we need to get as many people vaccinated because it's more money for big pharma than it is for anything else. Other than, besides maybe some people feel that it's doing good for people, but I believe that the underlying push was for big pharma and a lot of money to be made.
Yeah, the more people that get the jab, the more money they make.
Was it our government really concerned about people?
Man.
I would have to say probably there were a lot of people within government that were deeply concerned about people, but the people that were making these decisions had a lot of money at stake.
Yeah.
And a lot of lobbyists were lobbying for this
Yep.
to be pushed through as fast as it can.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking that because it's only being tested on rats and then pushed out to the public is again for greed.
Yeah, it's one of those big warning signs for me that throws up that red flag again of that another grain of sand thrown onto that heap of, okay, what the fuck is going on here? Why aren't we looking more into this? Why is this not more of a mainstream question?
See, I knew when we got to the pandemic portion of this was gonna
lose his shit.
We were gonna go into a 3-hour episode for our last one. I knew it, and we're just gonna keep rolling. We're gonna keep going. If it goes 3 hours, it goes 3 hours, because this is stuff I knew when this was happening. This is stuff that Derek and I wanted to talk about, and I knew Derek really wanted to talk about a lot of this stuff too. So
we have been putting the topic of the coronavirus off because we were like, we don't want to get into it. We don't want to get into it. We don't want to get into it. And now this episode is like, we can't not get into it.
You can't get it. You cannot not get into it.
Get into it when you're talking QAnon. Because again, look at the death tolls and everything like that. It's all inflated. Why is it inflated? Because they didn't put people who died because of the coronavirus. They put people who died with the coronavirus in their death toll tickers on CNN. And when they caught the actual head of CNN talking about how they enjoyed having that on there because it increased ratings.
Well, hell, even when it was proven that hospitals were given more money because if they would put on the death certificate that they died of coronavirus, one more down, more money to go.
Exactly. Like they didn't hide it, but people refused to look at it. Again, I am not downplaying the fact of the coronavirus. I'm not. I had it. It was terrible. I have lost people to it. It was awful.
I had it 2 times.
Some of the worst things that I had to go through within the last couple of years with my own personal illness and losing people and family members because of it. But at the same time,
our politicians and big pharma and big corporations used it to their advantage. Like big pharma and politicians, even though I don't dispute that the coronavirus was not real, it's very real. Like you said, like you heard Derek say, he had it and it was very severe for him. It was really touch and go. I mean, I was really concerned for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you came back to the podcast still coughing, wheezing. You couldn't hardly take a step down the driveway here at the studio without getting out of breath. And for me, I was diagnosed having it twice, and I think I had it 3 times. And I felt just, oh my God, I could not get comfortable. There was nothing in my being that could make myself comfortable when I had this. My head was like on fire. I just felt just terrible. It was like the strangest feeling I have ever had. It didn't feel like the flu. It didn't feel like the cold, but it did have those underlying feelings. But then again, it felt like something totally different, alien to me.
It's that, except
it's weird.
Like 10 times worse.
Yeah, it was weird. Very weird, and I think when you have organizations, I don't know, I would just have to say politicians and maybe some scientists, maybe some people within the CDC using it, for their advantage, for a political platform or whatever. Definitely, or for profit.
Yep.
Just because they were using it for those means doesn't mean that the coronavirus was not real, but they just used something that was just so horrific at the time for a lot of people for their advantage. Once it started to gain traction, coronavirus started to gain traction. Maybe at the start they didn't, but I'm assuming in my mind that a lot of politicians and people within maybe big pharma were probably looking around going, hey, wait a minute. We could use this as a political talking point. We could use this in our political strategy against Donald Trump, maybe.
Right.
Maybe not, maybe. We could use this to lobby more money for us,
Yeah.
for big pharma. Why not? I mean, it's not unheard of. It goes on every day.
Oh yeah.
Use any world event as a political strategy. Politicians do it every day. Local events to world events they use in their own favor.
What is the saying? Never let a good tragedy go unused, or whatever it is.
Good quote. Yes,
they do it all the time. Whether
good
it's
quote. Yeah.
getting sick, whether it's a like the coronavirus, or it's a school shooting, or
sure
whatever. You've got to politicize. Got to politicize.
it.
Got to politicize.
You got to see that your candidate or whatever position you're in. You got to show you got to show some sort of support either for or against this. You got to get on camera. You got to make a statement. You got to show that you're something more. You're something much more greater, and that whatever the cause is that you want to spin it, or we want to spin it, you got to make a statement about it and support it.
It's all there to divide. It's all there to divide. Whether it's coronavirus and I don't want to wear a mask.
Yeah, but do you think?
But do you think that?
But do you think during the pandemic, like a lot of Q conspirators think, that they use this to divide people for nefarious reasons?
Oh, I'm sure.
Do you really think so?
Oh yeah, yeah. Hell, I think they did. I'm not a QAnon, so I mean, by the time this done, these 3 parts are done, I might be.
True.
I'm agreeing with them more and more. I still wouldn't consider myself a QAnon supporter, but at the same time, like, I firmly believe there are people out there that used it for a us versus them scenario. You look at how many times it was, like I was saying, something as basic as you should wear a mask. And God forbid, if you spoke up against it, you were the other. You were evil. You were grandma killer.
True.
You were all this other stuff. You were this terrible, evil person.
Right.
But you're sitting there going, well, I have these 10 studies right here that show something other than what your studies say.
Yeah, but those 10 studies, those people that did those 10 studies were quacks.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Why are you listening to them? This is done by freaking, what's the guy's name? The fucking old man that was
Fauci.
This is all stuff that's backed by Fauci, and you need to listen to Fauci. Fuck Fauci. Guy was lying through his teeth 90% of the time. You ever see any of his emails?
I've heard about them. I have not read them, but I heard about them on Joe Rogan. I believe there was a reporter on Joe Rogan that was talking about it, that was deplatformed either from Twitter or Instagram.
Yeah.
And I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
I can't remember the reporter's name. He has a lawsuit against one of these two platforms, and I'm not sure who it is. But yeah, basically about the information that he was dispelling on his platform, and he was taken down because of it, now has come out to be, there is some justification behind the information that he was claiming to be true.
Yeah. Well, doing all that doing all the lab in China, doing the Wuhan lab, doing all the research on the coronavirus, that's, where they were altering the coronavirus to infect humans. And Fauci sitting there going, oh, no, we never did any of that kind of research. And then you read his emails and they go, oh, yeah, we were doing that kind of research. And it's like, wait, what the fuck? Like, you literally lied in front of Congress.
I remember when the pandemic first hit, and there was talk about that it was a military operation.
Yeah.
It was basically chemical warfare.
Right.
That they were researching chemical warfare, and then it was us and China together that were actually doing this work.
Yeah.
That it wasn't, just China alone. We had our own people in there as well.
Yeah.
Which is weird. That's weird. I don't know if there's any truth to that. And like I said, a lot of this stuff we're talking about has never came out to be true per se.
Yeah.
But again, it all kind of lines up again. The corruption, the nefarious reasons why certain groups, organizations, political agendas need to be met.
Yep.
It seems to line up. And it also seems to line up within Q's conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theories.
Quote, yeah. Big quote. Really big quotes on conspiracy theories.
Sure. Yeah. But according to an early strain of QAnon-driven chatter on social media, the lockdown wasn't just in place to protect us at all, but because the U.S. military was carrying out a secret rescue of children who had been sold into the sex trafficking trade. That was one of the Q conspiracies. So, again, you have the lockdown.
Yeah.
I wondered. It wasn't because of sex trafficking. That never even crossed my mind. But I remember hearing stuff about, why lockdowns were happening, that it was just a way to control people and to instill fear in people, or to get our mind off of certain political agendas and onto something else. And I don't know.
It's means of control.
Was it an exercise, just a military exercise and a political exercise to establish, or to, this is what I heard, that it was a military and political exercise, a psychological exercise to see if some sort of control can be established during an outbreak of this caliber? And
Potentially,
I would not doubt that there was some.
No, yeah, same here. Like I
How would we psychologically react to something like this?
Well, and I think some of it is, again, to kind of go with the us versus them scenario. How did it gives them an them as in the powers that be, whether it's the government, whether it's whatever umbrella that is watching, the powers to go, that option or the ability to look at who handles it, how, okay, so we've got this group over here. We said, hey, we're going to do 15 days to slow the spread. And most people were like, okay. I understand. Well, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like whatever, it's 15 days. It's not the end of the world. And then they turn around and they go, okay, well,
another 15 days.
Now you've got to wear a mask too.
Sure.
And it was like, for a little bit, a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's not the end of the world. I'll wear a mask for a month or so.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, by the way, that 15 days, it's turned into a few months.
Yeah.
And people are starting to go, whoa. What the fuck happened to 15 days? Like, I didn't want to do that, but I humored you. Now you're trying to make me wear a mask everywhere I go. And you're trying to freaking tell me I have to stay locked in my house for even longer.
Sure. Especially some of the poor people over in Italy and in England. Oh my God, how long they were locked up.
Oh, heck yeah. Australia.
I mean, we didn't have it as bad as they did over in Europe.
You want to talk bad? Freaking Australia literally turned into a concentration camp.
Yes. There were people. There were actually. I don't know if they have the CDC there.
I'm not sure what
I don't know what it is. They were knocking on people's doors, and if you had it, you were taken away.
Yeah.
There were actually accounts of that actually happening in Australia.
Yeah, they have little villages set up, little quarantine villages set up, where you couldn't leave. Like, well, I'll stay at home. Nope, sorry, you got to come with us.
Come with us.
We're gonna drag your ass out of here, and is even to the point of, we think you were in contact with somebody, so we have to drag you away. Wait, what the fuck? You're pulling me out of my house,
right?
Because you think I had contact with some coworker that works on the other side of the shop than me. Like, I don't even know this guy's name. How the hell do you think I had contact with him?
Yeah.
Well, we think you might have passed in the bathroom. So sorry.
Right.
And it's like, and you get how much of it was cover up, how much of it was people that are just freaking sheep and wanted to be there. How much, because you had conflicting stories online and stuff of people that were like, oh, hey, see, I'm over at this place and it's not that bad. I'm just chilling here in the sun, relaxing and having a great time in my little bungalow.
Right.
But then at the same time, why should you be forced to stay somewhere else when you're at home already?
Right.
Like, it's
I mean,
it's all control.
Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of liberals and conservatives really felt.
Yeah.
A lot of them believe that it was a form of control. Yeah. And since you're on lockdown, what do you got? You got the internet. and you got a rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
And what is that going to open up? You're on the internet looking at all of this information, but then you have all of these, people with different theories, QAnon posts and everything like that. You're going down these rabbit holes. All of a sudden you have more people that are gravitating towards Q at this time because of all the disinformation that was out there. A lot of the missteps that Fauci took in his in him relaying information, correct information to us about what is safe practice, what is not safe practice, what should you do, what shouldn't you do.
Yeah.
And then everybody giving different information as far as how the coronavirus works and what it does and how you can treat it and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just became a cesspool of just information. And so the COVID-19 conspiracy theories started almost as soon as the reports of the new illness surfaced. The Q gurus sold the most were quack cures and unproven treatments for an illness that nobody else seemed to be able to get a handle on. And so what's usually known as the big pharma conspiracy theory had already been part of the Q mythology. One of the Q's strangest drops from April of 2018, number 1010, hinted at a vast pharma conspiracy and control of the household products industry, writing pharma, and then in brackets, class D water. And with these, and it goes on to say air chemicals pushed for home use, cleaning, brackets, cancer, brackets, baby on floor, hands and mouth, the start, with another bracket, vaccines, not all. There was a Q post. It was so trying to make sense out of all that. Now, of course, you have
hindsight.
Wow, it's like, wow, what is this? What is this post? I mean, it's very cryptic,
Hindsight, I can understand. Like, if from a conspiratorial point of view, I can make sense of some of it. Especially since we don't know some of the long-term effects of everything that's been going on.
Right.
And, especially talking about having to make sure everything is, household cleaners and everything else. And, making sure, because everything like that went out of stock and was being used to the nth degree and everything else when coronavirus started. And who knows, maybe there was something going on in their mind that was like, ooh, maybe this stuff causes cancer. Who knows? And then, talking about, the vaccine and stuff like that had a really heavy push after, during the whole, during this last half or so of the whole pandemic stuff. Which, thank you, Joe Biden. It is over. He said it. The president said the pandemic is over. We're all safe.
He's probably, but he doesn't know what pandemic he's talking about, though.
Exactly. He's talking about the Black Plague, which I'm pretty sure he was there for.
Well, Q gurus began to push a treatment that was already popular in anti-pharmaceutical circles, MMS, a mineral solution that, when combined with citrus extract, turns into, guess what? We talked about this on our last episode, chlorine dioxide. Also, the principal ingredient in industrial bleach. And we talked about the woman that was actually dishing out, basically chlorine dioxide to their followers. Here, drink this. It'll cure coronavirus, and you won't get it. And if you do have it, it will cure you. Crazy.
But it is funny how, I don't know how much you get into it, but how many different treatments out there are coming out now, and they're saying, no, what? Actually, this does kind of have a good effect on it.
Well, let's see. And you might have some information on this. From autism to AIDS, with the usual stuff about it being suppressed by the bad guys in the FDA and the pharmaceutical industry because it was cheap and made pretty much made their drugs useless. So to taking it to prevent COVID would also cure a bunch of other illnesses. Now, a lot of people in the medical community say that if you have a drug that says that it can cure many illnesses, then the less of all of these illnesses does it really treat?
Yeah.
You know. So naturally, the government would rather you not take it for that reason. So multiple MMS pushers were sanctioned by the FDA, and the press viciously attacked it as quack cure with serious potential for harm that was essentially the same as drinking industrial bleach, which it was pretty much it
Yeah.
is. It's industrial bleach. Meanwhile, Q began to claim that COVID-19 and the lockdown put in place to stop it were part of a strategy to get Joe Biden into office by cheating. Everything that was happening wasn't a once in a century pandemic, but the deep state deploying all assets to win the election, as Q would claim in a number of drops in 2020. After all, it seemed like the perfect way to knock back Trump's chance for re-election by giving him a pandemic and a really bad economy.
Yeah.
And so this was all part of the grand plan that a lot of Q followers believe, that this was concocted, the pandemic, everything, the lockdowns. It was basically to get Joe Biden into office and make Trump seem like he did not know what the fuck he was doing.
Yep.
So, and I don't think Trump really did know. Honestly, he was confused as everybody else.
I was going to say, I firmly believe that a lot of people really didn't. I think even those that took advantage of it nefariously didn't even necessarily know what they were doing.
No.
Other than taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
You know, they looked at it and they saw dollar signs, not results.
Right.
You know, where Trump just looked at it and saw a big ass question mark and went, "You're supposed, hey Fauci, you're supposed to be the head of the CDC. What am I supposed to do here?"
You're the guy.
And then as soon as, you know, he finds somebody else with dissenting opinions, all of a sudden now Trump bad.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, there was other stuff besides MMS.
Yeah.
That was kind of brought in as a cure-all. The hydrochloroquine zinc Z-Pack cocktail. It took off like a rocket among right-wing pundits and mainstream conspiracy figures like a miracle cure that Big Pharma and the media were trying to suppress. I don't know much about the Z-Pack. I mean, I've heard about it from friends and everything. Yeah, you got to take zinc and everything, and you know, you hear it.
Z-Pack is, honestly, when it comes to something like the flu, it's pretty much a miracle cure. It's what they give you. And it clears a lot of people up within like days, where it can, you know, I don't know if you've ever had the flu really bad, but it'll knock you out for a week easy. Where when you take the Z-Pack, sometimes that clears shit up really quick. So can it have an effect on COVID? I'm not a doctor, but I could see where people would say, hey, let's try this first, considering the Z-Pack has been around forever and it's not that expensive. Where Big Pharma, again, is going, whoa, no. Hey, this cheap alternative, there's no chance it's going to work. You guys, what are you talking about? That's not going to make us trillions of dollars. I mean, that's not going to work to make you feel better. We need to get trillions of dollars so we can research this other thing over here.
Right.
Wait, what am I saying? They would never do something like
sure.
that. Never. I could never see pharmaceutical companies like that at all. All right, next one.
Okay.
I'll let you control my tangents.
You're doing good. I just wanted to see if you were finished. I didn't know if you had more to go on. I was going to sit back and enjoy the show.
We'll see. We'll see what else you cover. I have a few more. I have a feeling there's a few more.
There could be more coming. The supposed potential of hydrochloroquine to end the pandemic and humiliate the anti-Trump experts on the left would become one of the biggest conservative talking points of the pandemic. And Q was right. They're pushing it all the way to the top. Q would mention hydrochloroquine a dozen times in April and May, and its rise in the QAnon mythology paralleled its rise in Trump's inner circle. Trump himself touted it as a miracle cure. At worst, would do nothing harmful, or as he rhetorically asked during an April press conference, and I remember seeing this on TV, what do you have to lose by taking it?
And I mean, in all honesty,
like you said, the pack, The Z-Pack, it was already being taken by people who have the flu anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, it's
Right.
it's been
What do you have to
a
lose?
common thing, and it's not like it's gonna kill you necessarily. Obviously, consult your own doctor because my phone is talking to me.
I didn't understand that. She
That
said.
was creepy.
I didn't understand that, Darren. That's what she said.
But like, yeah, consult your doctor, and if your doctor says we might as well give it a shot, it's not going to kill you. Why not? Let's try it. Let's not demonize because there might be another
Trump wasn't
option.
the only one that was supporting this, nor QAnon supporters. It was there were a lot of people within the medical community, very respected doctors that were saying, yeah, you need to take this. This is going to help you.
And the one that was saying don't, Dr. Fauci,
right,
hasn't practiced in like 30 years or something crazy, 20 years, something like that. He hasn't been a practicing medical doctor in decades.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you have practicing medical doctors saying, hey, I'm getting positive results when my patients take this. And everyone's going, oh, you heathen, shut up. You're going against us. Don't say that.
Right.
Like,
but I think the problem came about is when, a lot of people within the Q community and Trump himself were purporting that the zinc pack would help. But a lot of people were against it because there was a very limited supply of Z-Pack, and a lot of patients that really needed it couldn't get it because there were a lot more people out there trying to get the Z-Packs just for the COVID-19.
Oh, okay.
Then a lot of people that did need the Z-Pack were having a hard time getting it, and because a lot of the times it was being prescribed by their doctor for other reasons other than COVID-19. So I think you're having a lot of backlash against that, saying, whoa, wait a minute. Not everybody can go out there and take this because there are other patients that really need this as well. We don't know if this is going to be as effective. We haven't done tests on it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, call me crazy, but instead of pumping billions and trillions of dollars into pharmaceutical companies to find a cure that wasn't out there, why not pump a little bit into it and say, hey, let's find out if this stuff works and make more.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
do a few tests, a few studies, go, hey, we're having positive results. Hey, that money you were going to give us for this thing over here, instead of giving us all for that, we'll take some, we'll do our research on something, another more effective or long-term thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're going to pump out this Z-Pack for others that might help a little more. Even if it only helps people with like mild symptoms, at least it's helping people stay better.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Who am I? I'm just some dumb guy that speaks into a microphone every other week.
Well, eventually the hysteria over HCQ, hydrochloroquine, faded out. Then they say that some of the initial studies that were done on it, that pretty much supported its effectiveness, were determined to be fatally flawed. And follow-up studies revealed that it not only had no preventative value against COVID-19, but it also had pretty serious side effects, including death, if it was taken in massive doses that some of the proponents were talking about.
Too much of anything is a bad thing.
Sure, I mean, if you're taking handfuls of it like Jolly Ranchers, then yeah, I mean, you're gonna
see that clear container right there. If I drink too much of that, that's water. It'll kill me.
Right.
Huh. Ironic, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. So Instagram's role in spreading the ideas of Q to a larger audience and the destabilizing power, encouraging people not to trust science. That's basically what Q was pushing,
I hate that statement. Trust the science, because they only trust the science when it suits them and suits what they want.
Right.
I won't get into it because it'll get us deplatformed and people will hate me for it. But when you say trust the science, but then you turn a blind eye to other things what the science is saying, and Science is there to be questioned.
Sure.
That is the entire freaking point of science.
That's why you have hypotheses.
Yes, you
And
question
conducting
it,
scientific
you
experiments.
test it, and you find out. You don't question it, get told to shut the fuck up and get in your corner and get in line.
Right.
That's not science.
Right.
And Dr. Fauci coming out saying, I am the science, and to question me is to question science. You are not the science. You are some low-life piece of shit that's sitting there thinking he's in charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're supposed to question science. Science is supposed to question science.
Yes. Like
that's how we advance as a society, as a civil society out there. That's how we progress as people. If we didn't question, we would pretty much, we would probably would not be here.
We'd be in, I was going to say,
we
would
not
either
be
be dead or we'd still be in the dark ages.
Sure.
Like that's where we would be because people didn't want to question, oh, well, what happens if I melt down this material and it makes this hard substance called steel or iron and I move on from there? No. Hey, this stone and wood over here is working just fine. You shut up and stay in your corner, little man. We don't need any of that metal, whatever the fuck that is over there. We don't need that. Shut up, stay in your corner.
Right.
We got rocks and wood. We're good.
Yep.
That's where we'd be.
Yeah. I mean, even with the Instagram movement, Facebook, Twitter, and everything, I mean, now Q has solidified itself in where it had wanted to be in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right into mainstream America. It was right in the front seat, driving everybody's opinions, especially during COVID-19 and the lockdowns. It was right there for even all the soccer moms to start gossiping about, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? Did you hear about this theory? What about this zinc pack? What about the lockdowns being a means of controlling us? So you had mainstream middle America talking about, Q and everything, and just where they wanted it to be at, and so the explosion of conspiracy theories after the election is impossible to separate from QAnon. It represents the movement's biggest success in its quest to troll the deep state into submission. 4chan and Twitter immediately became hives of disinformation related to voter fraud and ballot rigging, shooting the best theories straight up the right-wing disinfo pyramid. Promoters on Twitter, of whom there were still hundreds, despite the site claiming to have cracked down in July of that year, spun a new great hope. Trump not only had won, but won in a 400-plus electoral college vote landslide. But pretending to lose was necessary to sniff out and crush the fraud of the deep state. Once the fraud was revealed, everything would be fine. So basically, they were touting that, it was just a false flag, so to speak. Yeah, they were pretending to lose, but he didn't really win. It was all part of the, I don't know.
Like I'm sorry, QAnon, but personally, I think there are questions that need to be answered.
Right.
I think there are a lot of funny things that happened and a lot of illegal things that happened and a lot of rules that were changed that were unconstitutional that helped out the Democrats win.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now don't take this the wrong way, people. I don't think Joe Biden won, but Trump lost.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was an anti-Trump vote that made it by saying I don't think Joe Biden won. I don't think anyone. Well, okay, I don't want to say anyone. There are a lot of people out there that didn't vote for Joe Biden. They voted against Trump.
Right.
And that's why he won. Was there were so many people that were like, we don't like him. He's kind of dirty mouthed and he tweets not really mean naughty things, and we don't want him around anymore. And we also believe the narrative that he is this evil racist person, even though he's done more for the black community than any president in the last like 50 years or whatever the fuck it's been. But like unemployment rates among the black community were the best under Trump as they've ever been. And the kids in cages, oh wait, that was actually Obama who built those cages, and he was actually known as the deporter in chief. Like there's a lot of things out there that he's criticized for that either A, isn't true, or B, was spun in a way to take some of and I don't mean to be mean, but the simple-minded people out there that watch the news and just believe what they hear. And when they hear somebody speak out against what they've heard and what their side says, they just go la, 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 and stick their fingers in their ear. They're not willing to hear that other side. So they go, well, he's obviously a bad guy because CNN said he was a bad guy. So obviously I've got to vote for this other guy, even though he doesn't leave his basement. He's senile. He can't form complete sentences. And like he gets lost on stage and makes up words. Like, but I'm going to vote for him because that seems like a safer deal than, this evil Antichrist character that the media has formed.
Yeah. Yeah. I can say I voted for neither.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like to your point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, Q kind of dropped off during this time period. Q wasn't making a lot of posts online. They weren't making a lot of drops at all. There was a Q promoter, CJ of Truth, that had said we're in day 2 of Joe Biden thinking that he is president.
mean, I think we're in 2 years of Joe Biden still thinking he's.
I don't even know we have a president. Honestly,
I
don't think we do. I don't know. Kamala Harris is not even to be found. It's like they put her like somewhere in Siberia. I don't know, and sent her off somewhere because she has not made any.
I think Joe Biden still thinks he's a senator. Wasn't that the claim he made when he was running for office, that he was running for Senate or something like that? And they were like, no, he's running for president.
I haven't heard that
running
one.
I'm pretty sure when he was on one of his, like 3 campaigns that he was out for when he was running for president, he said something about, and we want your vote for me as senator or something like that. And it was like, dude, you're running for president, like get your shit straight. Like, not only do you not know where you're speaking, you don't know what you're doing.
Shaking hands when nobody's there.
Oh god, it's scary.
Yeah. Well, a person that we had talked about before kind of re-enters the whole scene here. Ron Watkins comes back at the very center of all this conspiracy theories, who claim to have resigned from running 8-Cone on election day to pursue woodworking. But instead of him kind of reaching for a saw or anything, he reached for the owner's manual for a Dominion voting machine. And he was the one that kind of got this Dominion voting machine scam in progress. And so where the votes were being miscounted. And he became somewhat self-appointed expert on these Dominion voting machines, saying that they were flawed. So he was the one that kind of brought it to light, and he started posting about this, saying that, I've studied these things, and these things are flawed, that they miscounted votes, and, So as the weeks between the election and Biden's assumption of the office wore on, Trump's offensives were thwarted at every turn. His lawyer team lost its great hope of the Supreme Court taking up their case, which happened. Every county verified its vote tallies, with every state in turn certifying the Electoral College voter slates their citizens had chosen. Audits and recounts turned up nothing in terms of voter fraud.
I'm not sure how I feel.
I
about
had
that one.
heard something different
That's
about
not
this.
100% right.
Yeah, that's right. That's
because
true.
I know there was like, I believe it was Nevada was one of the big ones where there was people being able to vote twice in different counties. I believe it was
A lot of these were mail-in ballots that
they got
that had this
sent in
problem.
while they were in one county. They moved and voted while they were in the
right.
other county.
Yes, that's what it was about.
And they both got counted.
Right. I don't know if it was necessarily fraud itself. Fraud needs you need to have fraud. You have to have some sort of intent
Yes.
to commit the act itself.
I was gonna say it's generally a bigger like group of people that are getting together saying, hey, this is what's gonna happen.
This is what we're gonna do.
When I don't think it was necessarily like that, but I do believe that individual areas had issues that slipped through the cracks that didn't get heard by things like the Supreme Court. Or there was a Pennsylvania had a lawsuit with 40 other states that were involved.
Yeah.
It was Texas brought it up against Pennsylvania. And what they were saying was, hey, these laws and rules that were enacted aren't constitutional. How are they getting away with this? How is this being allowed? And the Supreme Court, two of the guys, I can't remember what their names were like, you know what, we agree with you. Like this, like we cannot have this go on. We cannot have these big red flags throwing up in our election cycles. Like this is not okay. But then everyone else on the Supreme Court was like, nope, turn a blind eye. We're not going to cover it. We're not even going to look at the case. And so this massive case just got thrown out without even being looked at.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard about that.
And it's like, wait a second, how can you do that when you have such a big issue on constitutional grounds and just go, we're not going to look at it.
Yeah.
Like
yeah. Right. Which was really strange when I heard about that. It was like a very...
Like, I'm sorry, but you want to freaking gain QAnon supporters or what? Because that's how you freaking do it. You just say, nope, we're not going to look at your case over here. And then somebody else is going to go, wait a second, that seems a little fishy to me.
Right.
It'd be like me calling the cops and being like, hey, I know what somebody else is doing. I've seen it firsthand. You should probably look into it. And they just go, nah. Like, no, like you don't necessarily have to go crazy, but you might want to investigate a little. Like, come on.
Right. I'm sure there was probably somebody in there somewhere and went, whoa, wait a minute, I want to look at it. Oh, yeah, sorry. No.
There was two judges.
Sit down. Yeah.
There was two judges. They're the two that are known as being like the two big Republican judges. I think one, I can't remember their names for the life of me. And it sucks.
Dun, 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 dun,
crap.
Dun, dun,
but yeah, on the risk of sounding extremely racist, one was the black guy. Oh, no. That's all I know.
Sorry, I don't support that comment at all. I don't support that comment whatsoever.
All I know is I don't mean that in a negative way. That man is my hero. I wish I could remember his name because he has done some great things for like the Second Amendment for like the United States in general. He
wasn't Coleman. Coleman was his last name? No.
Freaking,
what was his last name? I can't remember his last name. Well, while you think of that, let's continue on. So the process went on as normal. Q believers put their faith in the last desperate gamble, the Pence card. That's right. And to stay in power, pretty much they wanted Trump to stay in power, and they felt that the Pence card was the only way to keep Trump in power. That if the vice president could overturn the electoral votes. And then that would be the way to keep Trump in power.
Yeah.
So, but in the fantasy world of hashtag cross the Rubicon, Pence potentially could swing the whole thing back to Trump. So, um, hashtag cross the Rubicon was another Q supporter that had felt that Pence was the one that could turn this all around. So did you find out?
Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas, of course. He's been a judge ever since I felt I was a little kid. He's been in it forever.
Right. And he's awesome. He's pretty awesome. Like, I'm not gonna lie, and I feel terrible that I could not remember his name. I could see his face even and picture him.
Yeah.
But I could not remember.
I could too. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, he was one of the judges that said, "Hey, we want to listen to this. We want to hear this." Shut down. Shut down the flames. Nope, can't hear it. Yeah. So since that kind of fizzled out for the Trump and his legal team, well, the Pence card was the only way to go. So during the January 6th joint session of Congress, at which the vice president was presented with the electoral votes, House and Senate members could legitimately team up to challenge state vote tallies. And many Stop the Steal devotees believed Pence could take those challenges as the way to throw out the results of any state whose votes were successfully challenged. This would either invalidate Biden's win or throw the election to the House of Representatives, where Trump would be picked by a majority of the state House delegations. But this was never actually possible. The VP's role in accepting the Electoral College voting slate is basically entirely ceremonial, really. And while challenging state vote totals is a constitutional practice, Pence had no more power to snap his fingers and re-elect Trump than any other vice president in history had. And so, and I know there was a Presidential Reform Act that was passed after this whole debacle on January 6th, basically saying, yeah, this is our process. This is what we do. And basically reminding the people again, no, the vice president's role is only ceremonial. He cannot overturn this. Yeah. But that's where a lot of it kind of just festered. And I remember hearing about, that the National Guard will come in and take, Biden out of office. And they will instate Trump back to his rightful seat as president forever.
Have you heard some of the new stuff?
No, I haven't.
There's actually Trump is making another fight to be either reinstated or have the election redone.
Oh, come on.
He has a mild point. The FBI went to Facebook and Twitter, and you may have heard about this because I believe it came out on Joe Rogan.
Uh-huh.
The FBI went to Facebook and Twitter and said, hey, so there's a lot of Russian disinformation that's going to be coming out in the next couple months. We're going to need you to suppress that. And you want to know what happened to come out within the next couple of months? The Hunter Biden laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And all the information about Joe Biden being involved in Hunter Biden's dealings and the weird family issues that Joe Biden is part of that was on there, and all of that kind of stuff that the FBI happened to deem as Russian disinformation, even though there are whistleblowers within the FBI saying, oh no, we were just told not to look at it. We had the information, but we were told, don't look at this, look at this over here.
Sure, they had the information all along.
But then they go to Twitter and Facebook and go, Russian disinformation, look out for it. Wink, 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 wink. And now Trump is going, hey, wait a second. Massive scandal within Biden's family that affects Biden. You guys are erection
Erectionists.
election rigging right now.
Well, in Biden's case, yeah, he probably needs all that help.
Like
Yeah,
he's
especially from his own family members.
right? Because there are also studies done by a few survey groups out there, like, and like not just little hometown ones, like bigger ones, that actually after the Hunter Biden stuff came out, they went out there to Biden support, like people who voted for Biden, and said, hey, if you knew about this whole laptop scenario and all the like stuff surrounding it, would you have voted for Biden or Trump? And they went, oh, if I knew about this, it would have been Trump all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like over 7% of Biden voters that they covered had said they would have voted the other direction, which would have been enough to swing the election in their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so now Trump is like, whoa, wait a second. But he's also, trying to cover his own ass with everything else going on right now with him. So, that whole story is just a mess.
Yeah. God, crazy. So, since what Q followers and everybody felt what Pence could do, that he could just sweep this whole thing into, the big toilet of history and basically get Trump back, it never happened. Yeah. What happened next was entirely foreseeable. QAnon had spent a year putting out drops claiming that if Biden won, it was because the election was rigged. It happened because of Trump's amplification of those conspiracy theories, and they're spread by Q-believing right-wing media stars with huge followings. It happened because of the social media kingpins letting those statements metastasize with little pushback. It happened because of the years of the Great Awakening, of trying to get the deep state and everybody waking up to what they were doing, pumped out by Q and its biggest promoters promising the destruction of Trump's enemies. And it happened because of the more like the God Emperor ideation that the United States had, that took over 4chan and far-right social medias before the election. And it happened because of the mockery and the dismal aspect of QAnon as a crazy cult of boomers, that they weren't being taken seriously. So the votes were counted, and after the police and the National Guard retook the Capitol, Mike Pence took no action to stop the process. Hundreds of insurrectionists, and the Q shaman, of course, was in there. And many of his Q-believing brothers and sisters were easily identified by open-sourced intelligence and social media and alike, were indicted. Twitter and Facebook cracked down on both QAnon and Trump's allies, and they also banned Trump himself eventually. I think they banned him from his Instagram first? I think it was Instagram first, right?
Was it Twitter?
Right. Twitter, I
know he's banned from Twitter.
Yeah.
I think he got banned from Twitter like the day he left office.
I think so.
As soon as they could ban him, they were like, okay, you're out the door.
Right. So pretty much it was over. 2 weeks later, even as Q believers still clung to the desperate hope of anything to happen, to stop Joe Biden from getting to office, there was no storm. There was not a great awakening. There were no child sex traffickers within the deep state or in the highest forms of government being indicted. The Q movement took its best shot and pretty much failed. Yeah. And that's it. A lot of this went out of control because just a lot of it wasn't taken seriously. Yeah. Q established itself as this big conspiracy movement and really got into the guts of America because they just weren't really taken serious. Yep. And maybe some of the claims that they were saying, like we were saying, could have been kernels of truth in there, and that a lot of this far out conspiracy stuff could have been maybe looked into maybe a little bit more seriously, and maybe there were kernels of truth that could have been uncovered. Yeah. Maybe by a non-biased, I don't know, government or law enforcement that would not look the other way. Yeah. Who knows?
So I'm telling you, I would love to go through some of their conspiracy theories and cover them as a topic.
Right.
You know, like one of the big questionable ones that people might hate us for covering, but I think would be fun would be the whole Las Vegas shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some interesting stuff from the conspiracy side of the Las Vegas shooting that piqued my interest and I would love to look into.
Yeah, that might be a possibility.
Put it, you know, like, not that I agree with what they say, but again, it's one of those where there's enough questions. Again, I've only heard the one side. I haven't looked into the other side, but they raise enough questions for me to where I'm going, that does seem odd.
Yeah.
I want to look into that.
Right.
That might make a good podcast. You know, like, with my luck, I might turn up on a little more of the conspiracy side because I don't trust our government as far as I can throw them, because they have not proven to me that I should.
I don't think anybody who's listening to this podcast can tell that.
Right? Not at all.
Not at all.
No, I hide it pretty good, don't
I?
Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not my fault when you talk to, you know, it's like if you go out into the world and you have a friend who is a pathological liar, you know not to trust them.
Yeah.
Like, until you can back up what they're saying with actual facts, you take it with a grain of salt and you choose not to believe them,
right,
until they are essentially proven right.
Right.
It's totally against the American way, which is innocent until proven guilty in our court systems.
Yeah.
But when you're a pathological liar, you're a pathological liar. You know, if there's one thing you can count on a pathological liar to do, it's lie.
It's to lie.
When it's our government, it's the same thing. If there's one thing you can count on them doing, it's lie.
Well, and I think that's the problem.
Ass.
And honestly, you know, just to kind of bring this episode to an end, I think that's one of the reasons why many people gravitate towards conspiracy theories like this, is because our government has done so much shady shit in the past.
Yeah.
That for them to say, no, we're not doing this, it raises an eyebrow.
Yeah.
To where, well, really? You've said this before, that you weren't doing these things in the past, but then come to find out, like in like Mekong Delta, what happened during that whole process too. And then with, you know, Operation Mockingbird, and so just so many.
Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Yeah, Gulf of Tonkin, Tuskegee Airmen.
I mean, no, Tuskegee experiment.
Yes,
not airmen.
Not the airmen. The Tuskegee
Way
experiment.
to go, Joe Biden. Same mistake. But yeah, the Tuskegee experiment. And the, what is the one that you were talking about earlier that happened with the LSD?
Why can't I think of this? Oh my God.
We haven't talked about it in one of our episodes.
Oh my God. Why can't I think this? MK Ultra. Jeez, thank God I pulled that. That should have been right at the front of my brain. My God, I couldn't think of MK Ultra experiments.
They literally have a laundry list of conspiracies that were proven true.
A laundry list. And so when our government is saying, no, we're not doing this stuff, or that there's nothing nefarious going on with COVID-19, going on with their election, going on with this, you raise an eyebrow because people think back about all of these other things that have come true that our government has denied. So what makes you think that we are going to believe our government now? And so people gravitate towards these conspiracy theories when in fact, many conspiracy theories have kernels of truth.
Yes. I was going to say, in all honesty, you could probably single space freaking 3 font, 12 pages worth of things that our government has either were conspiracy theories and are no longer, or that they just straight up tried to cover up.
Sure.
Like, there's so much shit out there. It's not even funny.
Yeah. And this is why Q, I think, ingrained itself so much during this whole process from 2017 all the way up to the 2020 election.
Yeah.
You know, I really do believe that. First, you have the pandemic lockdown, which that's all people could do is just go down these rabbit holes and become paranoid.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, heck, and it's funny that, you know, I talked about in, I think, our first episode of the Big Q about how coverage is really biased about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it kind of throughout, but talked about how during the whole Black Lives Matter BLM riots and everything like that, they actually legitimately stormed the White House. They threw fire bombs. They like burnt down guardhouses. They tore down fencing. They set a church on fire. But that wasn't considered an insurrection. That was just
Right.
a mostly peaceful protest, and it was the government that was bad because they stopped it. But there's a lot of the same shit going on the other side of the aisle that we don't look at, or that gets turned a blind eye turned towards.
Right.
One term I had heard, I don't know if it's more used, but I know I originally heard it for the first time on Timcast IRL. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not,
Mm-hmm.
but great show I watched. They, Tim Pool has kind of a center left leaning, ideology but he has some right wing beliefs kind of too at the same time.
Yeah.
But they call it Blue Anon,
Mm-hmm.
where you have these people that are on the left, essentially, that believe these crazy, outrageous things that have been proven to be false, but they will fight tooth and nail that they're true.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big ones that they always talk about is like Jesse Smollett.
Mm-hmm.
There are people still now to this day that firmly believe he was attacked by MAGA Republicans in Chicago at 2:00 in the morning. And even though he lost that court case, and they said, the two brothers came forward and said, no, he paid us to attack him. There are people that, still point to the NASCAR driver who found a noose hanging in his garage and were like, the FBI got called for that. Freaking, they had FBI agents all over the place for that. But it was a pull rope for a door. But they'll still scream,
Right.
this evil right-wing racist people out there. You've got them pushing the whole thing. One that I talked about earlier in one of the other episodes, the pretty fine people quote that they say Donald Trump did, but they won't cover the fact that right before it, he said there were bad people on both sides.
Sure.
And these white supremacists are terrible people. But within this crowd, I'm sure there are some very fine people. They won't talk about that, but they'll push tooth and nail that he said that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's the whole hands up, don't shoot thing. Nope. The kid actually reached for his gun. They found fingerprints and DNA evidence that no, he had his hand on this guy's gun, and that's why he shot him.
Sure.
Like, come on.
I know.
You want to talk, like, there is the entire other side of this story that doesn't get talked about.
Yeah. I would like to cover stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Just the other side of it that you don't hear about, that is
Cover
not
it.
talked about. I would
Yeah.
love to talk about it and
Cover
to bring
the
it out.
Blue Anon conspiracies instead of the QAnon
Yeah,
conspiracies.
that's so interesting, to actually do the counterpoint to what the
yeah.
mass media is actually trying to project out there, and
Heck yeah.
I mean, because I think you just have a few bad apples within QAnon, but I think probably for the most part, the majority of the QAnon are probably good, down to earth, reasonable people that do kind of believe these conspiracy theories, but don't take it to the next level by closing down the Hoover Dam and trying to, strap themselves with explosives.
As you have written up on the board, kidnapping, kids getting kidnapped by their mother, or like the one I have on here. Again, we're not saying there aren't crazies in QAnon.
Right.
But like one of the things I had actually written down was, did you see the story of Matthew Coleman?
Mm-mm.
He's a 40-year-old from Santa Barbara. He took his two kids, a 2-year-old son and a 10-month-old daughter, down to Mexico.
Yeah.
And he shot them through the heart with a spear gun.
Oh, jeez.
But the reason, again, this is another topic I'm laughing at a very inopportune time. But the reason he did that was he believed that they had serpent DNA passed down from their mother.
Oh my God.
And I would love to talk about like lizard people and shit like that. That would be a fun one. But
the Slee Stags from Land of the Lost. That's what it reminds me of. As a kid growing up watching that show, now I just think of Slee Stacks.
But like, he got pulled in by QAnon. And so, like I said, there are crazies, but
there's crazies in mainstream politics that don't follow the QAnon conspiracies, but follow, the Republican Democratic side that
I just
are crazy
a lot
enough
of
too.
The real crazies are they have underlying mental illnesses that aren't being addressed.
Of course they do.
And then instead of addressing, hey, this guy was schizophrenic, or this guy had PTSD, or this guy had this or that or some other thing, maybe drug abuse issues, maybe whatever, they go, QAnon.
Yeah.
Not, QAnon he got into QAnon because he has all these other issues.
Right. Yeah. That's just it. I think a lot of these issues were exacerbated by the lockdowns.
Yeah.
And that was the other negative side effect to the lockdowns, is that a lot of people with underlying mental health issues, it exacerbated those issues, and particularly, whatever they're susceptible to: depression, suicide, schizophrenia, the list goes on and on and on. The lockdowns definitely did not do a service to these people, but a disservice to a lot of people. And where a lot of these people that probably were, indicted on a lot of violent acts, it could have had, the lockdowns could have had somewhat of a toll on a lot of these people that went down these rabbit holes and were susceptible to paranoia and disillusion. So, but we're past the 3-hour mark.
We are. Holy shit, we are.
Yes, we are.
One more thing.
Yes.
Going back to Adrenochrome.
Yeah.
And how we keep saying there's tidbits of truth in everything we see.
Yes.
And rich and powerful are using Adrenochrome for different things.
Right.
Have you heard of young blood transfusions?
Yes, I have. And I think I was going to bring that up. I was going to talk about that.
Were we going to cover that in one of those?
That is going to be coming up during October, during our October Fun Fest of Halloween.
We took that one off the list.
If we want to let the cat out of the bag, you want to let the cat out of the bag here?
Did you want to cover that one under October 23rd?
We are going to cover that one under October 23rd. Actually, that is coming up.
All right. Do you mind if I touch on?
Go ahead. No, touch on it.
Okay. So for those of you that don't know, there's a thing called young blood transfusions. It is something that the rich and famous and powerful pay for. It is a blood transfusion of young blood.
Yes.
Literally what it sounds like. Older people will pay to have blood transfusions from young people. There's actually a company, or was a company out there called Ambrosia LLC, and they were charging $8,000 per liter, or I believe it was $12,000 for 2 liters.
Wow.
After a big FDA warning I believe it was February of 2019, saying, hey, this really doesn't do much, Ambrosia disappeared. But IV Plasma reappeared a few months later.
Yes.
Same owner, same service.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, isn't it?
And there's a lot of there's a lot of discussion on whether it helps or not, and it's pretty inconclusive.
According to the tests that they have done with the rats, older rats, and then using the transfusion from younger rats into older rats, that it actually was having was having an effect cognitively on these rats, the older rats. So
I was gonna say with rats, there was some research done with rats that it showed a potentially positive outcome with cognitive abilities.
Yeah, that's a far stretch from rats to humans.
Yes, and that was an Alzheimer's research where they're kind of, when they're talking about what Ambrosia was doing, which is youthfulness and being able to live forever and
Yeah.
things of that sort.
Well,
So
yeah, we will
it's-
definitely touch on that
that's one
in
more of those-
October 23rd episode. We're not going to say what it is, but October 23rd episode. If anybody can take a guess, maybe what that might be about.
They will never guess what we have written on that board up there.
So, Derek, do you think this kind of wraps up our QAnon?
Yeah.
Our look into QAnon and
I
QAnon
still think
episode.
they're crazy, but there is a massive pile of sand on this table in front of us, and it is overflowing the table. That's all I know.
Right. So, Derek, you know what to do. This is your time to shine too.
Well, shit. Damn it. Well, if you would like to find us, let's see if I can do this off the top of my head until I can find it.
Or if you can't, just in general,
hey, look
whatever.
At that. There it is. Yeah, you can find us streaming on most podcast platforms. You can obviously find us on YouTube now if you're not already watching us on there. And YouTube, it's the same as like our Facebook and our Facebook page, where it is under the Shit Show, but it is shit without an I.
Yes.
You can find us at our website at theshitshowwcl.com. You can find us on Instagram at theshitshowwcl. Ron is also on there, ron.clet. I'm on there, Derek the Barbaric Drenth. If you would like to get a hold of us, our listener email is theshitshowwcl@gmail.com.
Yeah. Wow. There you go. Yeah. And we're sorry. We went kind of long today.
We said we weren't going to do this, but this one,
we're sorry.
We had to finish the big Q in this one because we want to cover certain things in and around October, and we did not want to push it out
right
any further than we had to.
Exactly. So we're sorry it was a 3-hour episode, but hopefully you listened to the whole thing. If not, hopefully you enjoyed the parts that you did listen to. And we definitely apologize for the technical difficulties that we had at the beginning of the show, but I think we got those resolved. I pretty much figured out what was going on.
Yeah.
So okay. By looking at it and then looking at everything, and I pretty much figured out why we were dropping, our recording from, basically recording process, and what the software that we're using and why it was dropping. So I think that's all fixed. So it looks that way.
So for those of you listening to the actual podcast, not the video vodcast, I guess is what our YouTube portion would be.
Right.
If you hear some weird cuts at the start, that and some massive confusion going on, that's what it was.
Yeah. So we'll try to edit that for the podcast itself. We'll try to edit that together. But for the YouTube version of the podcast, well, you get basically a look behind the scenes of what we do to resolve our issues.
Welcome to live.
So, hey, do you want to mention what we have coming up in October? Halloween is upon us. So that means we're going to have October themed topics coming up. So October 9th is going to be our next recording date, right? Yes. October 9th. What do we have coming up, Derek?
The weekend of October.
Yeah, the weekend of. What do we have coming?
Oh, God. Now you're putting me on the spot.
I want you to pronounce his name.
Sagwa.
Okay.
Not 100% sure. I'm butchering that name.
Right.
But happens to be a cannibal.
Yeah. He is one of a famous cannibal, actually. Besides Dahmer.
Right. We've kind of decided we want to try and at least cover one like serial killer murderer.
Yeah. I mean, we're not a true crime podcast. We'll leave that up to Last Pod and My Favorite Murder to actually cover that thoroughly. The way they do it.
They're fun to look into.
They do it great.
They're fun to look into. So we're like, you might as well. And then this guy, he just fits in with October. And has kind of a crazy story.
Yeah. So if you don't know anything about his crazy story, well, listen to our next podcast and vodcast, and you'll find out more about this guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this has been Ron Klett.
This has been Derek the Barbaric Drenth.
And you've just had a front row seat
to the shit show. All righty.
So